Chapter 65:39. Hearing this, a rough image appeared in Bailey Hongshuang's mind. According to Gong Jun's description, this Bai Qingli should be a very upright person. However, in today's world, it could be said that one may know a person's face, but not their heart. Rumors might not be completely credible. Sometimes, it was not impossible for the elegant gentleman in the rumors to be a vicious and despicable villain. Boss, the reward for the top 10 this time are very rich. The rewards for the top 3 are different, but the rewards for the 4th to 10th are about the same. Gong Jun said with a face of interest. You think so highly of me. Hee, you my boss. If I don't think highly of you, who will I think highly of? Gong Jun rubbed his hands and said, this monster's demon crystal is also useful for cultivators' cultivation, but it's more useful for alchemy. Many immortal medicine masters will collect the demon crystal to refine pills. It has a very good effect, so when you hunt monsters, you have to keep the demon crystal. Hearing this, Bailey Hongshuang and Bai Qingli immediately understood. It turned out that this guy had been flattering for half a day, and the final goal was this. This demon crystal can be used for alchemy? Bailey Hongshuang's eyes lit up. She had never tried using demon crystals to refine pills, so she didn't know how effective it was. When they were in the abandoned immortal forest, Granny Hua didn't say much about this. It seemed that Granny Hua hadn't left the abandoned immortal forest for many years, and these monsters hadn't been around for long, so it was normal that Granny Hua didn't know. That's right. Gong Jun nodded. Madam, you're an immortal medicine master. This demon crystal should be of great help to you. Bailey Hongshuang thought that after the demon slaughter competition ended, she had to think of a way to make friends with the immortal medicine masters of Cloud City. Thinking about it, these immortal medicine masters should have some understanding of using demon crystals to refine pills. Just as the three of them were talking, a loud voice suddenly rang out, attracting everyone's attention. Welcome heroes from all walks of life to participate in this demon slaughter competition. This is not only a chance for you to fight for glory, but also a chance for you to contribute to Cloud City. No matter if you can achieve good results or not, as long as you kill a demon, it will be your contribution. You will forever be the heroes of Shiyun City. The city lord stood on the high platform and swept his gaze across the crowd. When this gaze swept over them, everyone only felt an extremely terrifying pressure, causing them to be unable to move at all. Only when he shifted his gaze away did he heave a sigh of relief. Immediately, his gaze towards the city lord was filled with amazement. Gong Jun, has the city lord already broken through to the elementary immortal stage? After Bailey Hongshuang felt the terrible gaze, she had a guess in her heart. Gong Jun nodded. The city lord's strength has indeed broken through to the elementary celestial stage. However, no one knows exactly what his cultivation level is. Does that mean the city lords of the realm of chaos are related to the realm of immortals? Di Baichen suddenly realized something. Actually, I also have such a guess. It is said that every city lord has already ascended to become an immortal. The number of cultivators in the realm of chaos is extremely shocking. If the city lord does not have such power, he would not be able to intimidate so many cultivators. Logically speaking, the realm of chaos would not allow the realm of immortals to do as they please. Therefore, it is very likely that the city lord was arranged by them. However, this news has not been confirmed, so I am only guessing. Chapter 65:40. Bailey Hongshuang and Di Baichen looked at each other. Although they didn't have concrete evidence, the more they thought about it, the more likely it was. The immortal realm had existed for so many years, so there must have been a rule. It was just that people who had just ascended often didn't understand the knack of it. After hearing the city lord's words, everyone present had a fervent look in their eyes. For many cultivators who had just ascended, they didn't have any foundation in the immortal realm. If they wanted to gain a foothold here, they could only rely on themselves to make a name for themselves. Participating in various competitions to obtain cultivation resources was the fairest path. Of course, cultivators like Guan Yi, whose family had already ascended, would grow much faster here than others. The rules of this demon-slaying competition are the same as the previous ones. As long as you kill a monster, your identity card will automatically record points according to the level of the monster you killed. As long as you get into the top 10, you will receive a very generous reward. However, before the competition begins, I want to remind everyone that these monsters are getting stronger and stronger. Everyone must be careful when dealing with them. Over the years, many cultivators have died in the competition. This is our eternal regret. The city lord's face revealed a trace of regret. He looked like he was very sympathetic to this matter. Everyone was slightly moved, and there was a trace of fear in their hearts. Now, I announce the official start of the demon-slaying competition. The city lord's face revealed a trace of heroism. Heroes, please enter the mountain range. As soon as these words came out, all the cultivators seemed to have received a call. They didn't stay any longer and quickly rushed inside. As everyone rushed into the mountain range like a swarm of bees, the sea of cultivators disappeared in the blink of an eye. Everyone leaped into the mountain range at their fastest speed. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two didn't delay. They immediately sped up and rushed into the mountain range. This was a black land. The entire mountain range was black. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at the surrounding environment. She actually felt that this place was very similar to the place where the skeleton army appeared. It was the same black soil, and the surroundings were filled with dense, dark energy. In the past, they viewed the skeleton army as a snake and scorpion. But now, the skeleton army had become their good helpers. Therefore, they didn't feel uncomfortable in such an environment. Boss, you haven't seen such an environment before, right? It said that many people can adapt to such an environment. What do you think? Gongjun looked at Di Beichun with concern. We have to stay in this mountain range for the next month. Di Beichun smiled faintly. I'm quite used to this kind of environment. Actually, the environment here is not bad. Boss, you actually don't mind? Di Beichun nodded. There's nothing wrong with the environment. This place is filled with the power of darkness. Everyone doesn't like the power of darkness. However, it seems that only a small number of darkness attribute cultivators have successfully ascended. Gong Jun spread out his hands and sighed. I don't know why these monsters are all darkness type. No wonder darkness type cultivators are so discriminated against. Chapter 65:41. I am of the darkness attribute. Di Beichun's voice slowly sounded, and his gaze was slightly complicated. Ever since he came to the celestial realm, he also learned that the situation of the darkness attribute being discriminated against was even more exaggerated than in the upper realm. Fortunately, since the establishment of the Dark Sacred Assembly in the upper realm, this situation had improved, but the situation in the celestial realm was even more complicated. Thinking about it, it was precisely because of this environment that Master and Master's wife went to the lower realm. Unexpectedly, in the end, they still ended up in such a situation. It was really a pity. Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at Gong Jun and said, I am also of the darkness attribute. Now is not the same as in the upper realm. When she first learned her attribute, she did not know enough about many things. Coming here was equivalent to starting from scratch. Beichun had already said that he was of the darkness attribute, so she naturally would not miss it. After Gong Jun heard that Bailey Hongzhuang was also of the darkness attribute, he was immediately stunned. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. Madam, you are the darkness attribute? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and looked at Gong Jun in confusion. Yes, what's wrong? Why was Gong Jun not surprised that Beichun was of the darkness attribute, but was so surprised that she was of the darkness attribute? Gong Jun also realized that his performance was too shocking and immediately smiled embarrassedly. I just looked at Madam's appearance, and you really don't look like a cultivator of the darkness attribute. Then you are wrong. I am indeed of the darkness attribute. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, and a wisp of darkness energy appeared in her hand. How is it? Are you scared? Gong Jun stared blankly at the wisp of darkness energy in Bailey Hongzhuang's palm, and a dark light flashed in his eyes, followed by a joyful smile on his face. I knew it must be fate that allowed me to meet Boss and Madam. Ha. The hearty laughter attracted the attention of Di Beichun and Di Beichun. The two looked at Gong Jun's excited appearance and could not help but feel a little puzzled. Why are you smiling so happily all of a sudden? Don't you discriminate against dark attribute cultivators? Actually, that's not it. Gong Jun shook his head, but the joy on his face did not change. Madam, do you know why I didn't participate in the demon slaying competition? Isn't it because you're lazy? Is that because you're afraid of death? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked at Gong Jun in disbelief. In her opinion, other than these two reasons, she really couldn't think of any other reason. Facing that sharp gaze, Gong Jun chuckled and said, "Well, actually, what you said is one of the reasons. But other than that, I have another reason. I'm a darkness cultivator. I'm worried that if I participate in the monster slaughter competition, I might be targeted by many people. At that time, I might lose my life. If that's the case, I might as well do my business properly. At least I don't have to worry about losing my life, right?" As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lin Qian were both surprised. "You're also a darkness cultivator? Isn't that so?" Gong Jun said with a serious face. "Look." A wisp of black energy appeared in Gong Jun's hand, revealing his identity as a darkness cultivator. "Hee, don't you think we're birds of a feather?" Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. She really didn't want to be associated with this guy. Boss. Chapter 6542. Gong Jun, what mountain range is this? Bailey Hongzhuang looked around. There were still many cultivators near them. Even though everyone had tried their best to disperse after entering the mountain range, there were still many people. It was impossible to completely disperse in a short period of time. Among the many cultivators, there were groups of 3 to 5. Some were in large groups with more than 10 people or even dozens of people. Of course, there were also people who traveled alone. In comparison, their team of 3 was considered to be relatively small in number. "Madam, this is the Demon Slaughter Mountain Range. It said that this place wasn't originally called this, and the environment is very good. It's somewhat similar to the abandoned Immortal Forest. There are many treasures here. Usually, many people come here to search for treasures. However, after monsters appeared many years ago, the environment here began to change bit by bit. As the Demon Slaughter competition continued, everyone called this place the Demon Slaughter Mountain Range for the sake of a better name." Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "This name is indeed easy to remember. Be careful, this is a monster." Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was walking, a flower not far from her suddenly opened its bloody mouth and bit at her. Di Beichen drew his sharp sword and instantly cut the flower in half. At the same time, his identity card had an additional point. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at the dead flower on the ground. Her eyes were filled with emotion. "Previously, I saw that this flower was only at the height of my ankle. I didn't expect it to reach the height of a person in the blink of an eye. This speed is really amazing. Madam, there are many monsters in this Demon Slaughter Mountain Range. Many of them don't look like much, but they will attack people. Therefore, we must be careful." Gong Jun patted his chest in shock and looked at Di Beichen ingratiatingly. As expected, Boss is wise and mighty. Not far away, when Bai Luchuan saw this scene, the mockery in his eyes intensified. It's just cutting down a man-eating flower, but they are so proud. They really haven't seen the world. Brother Bai, they've just ascended not long ago. Naturally, they haven't seen much of the world. They're so proud of such a small matter. They don't know how laughable it is. Yin Xiaoman's eyes were also filled with disgust. She began to feel that they might not even need to do anything, and these guys would die in this mountain range. "Luchuan, how are you going to teach them a lesson?" Guan Yi turned his head with concern and worry on his face. As long as these two fellows didn't die, he wouldn't be able to feel at ease. He didn't expect that even Gong Jun would come along this time. As long as he killed Gong Jun, his uncle would have one less thing to worry about. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Once they succeeded, they would be completely at ease. Bai Luchuan narrowed his eyes slightly as a teasing smile appeared on his face. "There's no need for us to do anything. We just need to instruct others to do it." "Oh," Guan Yi's eyes brightened. "With your ability, it's easy to find some powerful cultivators to deal with them." Bai Luchuan shook his head. "If we kill them directly, wouldn't it be too boring? Then what do you mean? Find someone to bribe them and let them be coolies. Wouldn't it be more satisfying to finish them off in the end? Chapter 65:43. Just when Guan, Yi, and Yun Xiaoman were a little puzzled and didn't understand what Bai Luchuan meant, he had already used his actions to show his plan. Bai Luchuan stopped and called a person not far away. He whispered a few words into the man's ear and pointed at the three figures in front of him. Do you understand? Don't worry, Master Bai. I will definitely resolve this matter properly. Remember, don't let them find out that I ordered it. Yes. After the man left, Bai Luchuan said, Let's go. Let's go further away so that they won't notice anything. If they know that I ordered them to do this, they will definitely not agree. Things won't be fun. Yin Xiaoman smiled and nodded. Brother Bai is really smart. He actually came up with such an interesting idea. They definitely won't think that this matter is related to us. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two moved forward. They decided to choose a direction where there weren't many cultivators. So far, the monsters they had encountered were only some ordinary flowers and plants. It was said that these powerful monsters were all in the depths of the mountain range. Moreover, there were already many cultivators in the place they were passing through, so there weren't many monsters left. Just as the three of them sped up and rushed forward, a voice suddenly sounded not far away from them. Hey, those three people. Hearing this voice, the three of them continued to move forward as if they didn't hear it. I'm talking to the three of you. Stop. When a man realized that the three guys he didn't care about actually dared to ignore his call, his expression immediately turned ugly. His figure flew and blocked in front of the three of them. I'm calling you. Why are you ignoring me? Looking at the man who suddenly appeared in front of them, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were a little surprised. You're calling us? If not you, who else would I be calling? There was a trace of anger on the man's face. He didn't expect that three newcomers who had just arrived in Shiyun City would dare to be so arrogant. However, before he could flare up, he heard the conversation between the three of them. Boss, do you know him? No. He can't be thinking of joining our team, right? Actually, I think the three of us are pretty good now. We don't need to join anyone else for the time being. What do you think? That's right. Then I'll think of a way to reject him. The man's face was livid. This conversation made him more and more speechless. So, where did these guys get their sense of superiority from? They actually think I want to join their team? What was so attractive about a three-man team that was weak and had even offended Master Bai? I say you three. I'll give you a chance. The man said coldly. He raised his chin slightly, and his face was full of pride. Brother, there's no need for that. The three of us are doing quite well. We don't plan on letting anyone else join us for the time being. As Gong Jun spoke, he suddenly realized that the other party was asking them to join. He was stunned for a moment. You mean join you? That's my team over there. The man pointed at the team not far away, and the arrogance on his face became more obvious. Chapter 65:44. Our team is the largest out of all the teams participating in this competition. If you follow us, you'll at least be safe. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. She could tell at a glance that the other party's team wasn't reliable. The purpose of participating in the competition was to fight for the top 10 spots. It would already be good if this team of dozens of people didn't have internal strife. Just getting along with each other was an extravagant hope. However, there's a condition for joining our team. What is it? Di Beichun asked with interest. After joining us, you'll have to contribute all the points on your identity card to our team leader. Once our team leader gets into the top 10, a portion of the cultivation resources will be given to you. You should know that it's impossible for the three of you to get into the top 10. If you join us, you'll at least get some cultivation resources. This is an opportunity that many people can't get. If it weren't for the fact that the three of you are quite pleasing to the eye, this opportunity wouldn't have fallen into your hands. Hearing this condition, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. This kind of behavior should be considered cheating. From another point of view, this was indeed a good method. Since one person's strength couldn't succeed, they would gather everyone's strength. This way, the success rate would greatly increase. However, this kind of thing wasn't attractive to them at all. A trace of disdain appeared in Gong Jun's eyes. He had some understanding of the rewards for the top 10. These cultivation resources were very abundant for one person. But no matter what kind of cultivation resources it was, after being divided among dozens of people, what would be left? They were the ones who opened the Celestial Treasure Pavilion. Whether it was boss or madam, refining some celestial spirit pills and celestial talismans would already be more generous than this. Thank you, brother. We appreciate your kindness, but as for joining, we'll pass, Gong Jun said with a smile. The man was originally waiting for the three of them to thank him, but he was suddenly rejected. His expression instantly became very ugly. You're actually rejecting such a good opportunity? Brother, the conditions of your team are so good that I'm sure you'll be so happy that you'll forget about your home. The three of us will take our leave first. Gong Jun cupped his hands in greeting. He knew that his boss was not interested in such things at all. He immediately thanked him and planned to leave. Seeing that the three of them were about to leave, the man's face turned green. He had promised Master Bai that he would complete the task. If he let the three of them leave, it would mean he had failed. It would be impossible for him to be trusted by Master Bai in the future. Thinking of this, the man took another step forward. Are you sure? Yes, Deep Beichun said indifferently. A dim light flashed through his eyes that were as deep as the sea. Originally, he didn't take this matter to heart. However, the other party's repeated invitations were rather strange. His gaze swept the surroundings, but he did not find any familiar figures. Only then did he withdraw his gaze. So you're saying that you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. The man's gaze turned gloomy, and there was a hint of threat in his voice. At the same time, the other cultivators in the group also rushed over. Obviously, they wanted to know what had happened. Chapter 65:45. All of a sudden, the cultivators stopped Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two from leaving. Look, their ID cards have numbers on them. At this moment, a surprised voice with a hint of ridicule was heard. Then, the other cultivators noticed the identity cards of the three of them. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two all turned their identity cards over. In order for the ID cards to record their information, they all hung their ID cards around their waists. Although the crowd did not see the serial number on the identity card clearly, as long as they saw the number, they could confirm that this was indeed an identity card. I heard that some people did something wrong when they tried to get their ID cards. That's why they didn't get their ID cards. Could it be them? If that's the case, they should just stay away from the team. We don't want to lower our standards. Everyone sneered. Their eyes were full of mockery. I had my eyes on them. I didn't expect them to refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. They are asking for death. The man's eyes turned cold. At this moment, he was sure that they had really offended Master Bai. They had been stopped from joining the Monster Slayer competition. They had to use other methods to join. No wonder Master Bai wanted to deal with them. However, Master Bai wanted to deal with them after he was done using them. If he did it right away, would Master Bai be unhappy? Faced with the mockery, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were stunned. These people were looking for trouble. Boss, what do we do now? Gong Jun asked Di Beichun. There were dozens of them. If they fought, they would be at a disadvantage. Both of them were Radiant Sun Realm cultivators. Their superiority in numbers was no joke. Di Beichun's smoky eyebrows were slightly raised, and his dark and deep eyes revealed a trace of playfulness and wisdom. No rush. Maybe they don't want to fight. Gong Jun was shocked. He looked at Di Beichun in confusion. Did he hear it wrong? They were surrounded by so many people. If they didn't want to fight, what did they want to do? Bailey Hongzhuang was also lost in thought. Beichun suddenly said such words. He must have seen through something. It's just that they had never seen each other before, so what problem could there be? However, when they were silent, the other party did not make a move. Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Jun suddenly understood a bit. The other party really did not want to make a move. Not only them, but the other members of the team were also puzzled. Captain, why waste time talking to them? Just kill them. I don't think they are capable. They won't contribute many points. Why don't we kill them? Apart from them, we can still recruit others. The man looked complicated. He wanted to shut them all up. He knew what was the easiest way to deal with them. However, he had to find a way to satisfy Master Bai. Thinking of this, the man once again looked at Di Beichun and the other two. I will give you one last chance. If you don't agree, then I can only take your lives first. Chapter 65:46. After hearing what the man said, Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Jun realized that there must be something wrong with this whole thing. Maybe it was just a coincidence that they came to them. But if they didn't do anything under such circumstances, only an idiot would believe it. Come to think of it, we haven't been here for long, and we have only offended Guanhong Tian and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke through mind connection. Boss, what are you going to do? Gong Jun also understood that since the other party was targeting them, this matter would definitely not be easily resolved. Unless they could break out of the encirclement. Otherwise, if they did not meet the other party's wishes, they would definitely not let this matter rest. Let's beat them at their own game. As soon as these words came out, Gong Jun immediately understood. In the next moment, Gong Jun sized up the people around him, and a trace of fear appeared on his face. Big brother, we were wrong. We are willing to do it. Gong Jun showed a flattering and scared smile. This is such a good chance. We can't wait. As he was talking, Gong Jun pulled Di Beichen's clothes, signaling him to agree. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen also thought that they had to show an appropriate amount of fear to make the other party believe that they had really changed their minds. They did not think that with Gong Jun, this drama queen, they did not need to worry about it. That's right. The two of them didn't want to do it, but they had to agree. The man saw that Di Beichen and the other two couldn't take it. He just said something casually, and they fell into the trap. He felt relieved. At least he didn't need to worry that he couldn't finish the mission given to him by Master Bai. Captain, do these three cowards look like they're capable of anything? I am definitely not as good as... One of the men beside the man couldn't help but voice his opinion. The three of them were forced to agree. If they joined in like this, it would tarnish the reputation of their team. However, before the man could finish his words, the captain glanced at him and immediately shut his mouth, not daring to say anything else. The team leader felt helpless. He didn't expect Master Bai to give him such a mission. It was much more difficult than just killing them. He had to use his brain. How troublesome. The three of you will follow us. Someone will explain everything to you later. The captain looked at the three of them indifferently. Don't cause trouble. Otherwise, don't blame me if you lose your life. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two then joined the group of dozens of people. After a rough look, there were a total of 60 people. Sensing this huge group, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. Do you think that all the points earned by the cultivators in this group will be given to Bai Qingli? Didn't he take first place in 3 consecutive monster slaying competitions? Since this competition has such an unwritten rule, with his strength in Xi'an City, it should be easy for him to win first place. She thought it would be a fair competition. She thought it would be interesting. She didn't think it would end up like this. She was a bit disappointed. Originally, I thought that Bai Qingli's strength was unquestionable, but now, I'm not so sure. Chapter 65:47. Even if he doesn't use these methods, it won't be bad. However, with such methods, the results will be more stable. Upon hearing that, Di Beichen slowly said, Don't worry. We will soon find out the truth. With such a huge team, they naturally didn't have to worry about others finding trouble with them along the way. When the others saw their formation, they almost consciously avoided them. If they were to clash with such a team, wouldn't it be equivalent to courting death? However, Bailey Hongzhuang and company had enough of these people rolling their eyes at them along the way. I really don't understand what the captain sees in the three of them. They're good for nothing, yet they dare to put on airs. I can't wait to beat them up. Perhaps the captain has taken a fancy to this woman? To be honest, this woman is indeed an outstanding beauty. No man could turn a blind eye to her. So what? It's obvious that they're already a couple. I don't think the captain will be interested. Bailey Hongzhuang played with a stalk of grass in her hand. She really wanted to remind the guys behind her that if they were speaking ill of others behind their backs, they could at least keep their voices down. If they were deliberately trying to be heard by them, there was no need to think in such a gossipy direction. They had nothing to do with each other, madam. Now everyone thinks that it's a femme fatale. Gong Jun couldn't help but laugh. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Gong Jun. I think it's a femme fatale. If it weren't for this fellow, they wouldn't have bumped into by Lu Chuan when they signed up. Although the final outcome was inevitable, at least the process didn't have to be so torturous. There was no need for a serial number on the identity card. Along the way, they had seen quite a number of demons. However, before they could make a move, the others around them had already dealt with all of them. The funniest thing was that these people had actually surrounded the three of them in the middle of the team in the name of protecting the newcomers. Regarding this, the captain had also instructed the others not to do so. It was fine if he didn't instruct them, but with this instruction, the others went even more overboard. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were very calm about this situation. After all, these guys had made up their minds to not give them a chance to increase their points. They were happy to be idle and watch the others deal with it. This kind of feeling was like having countless subordinates around him. Once danger appeared, these subordinates would directly rush out and wipe out all obstacles. It felt like 100 people would respond to a single call. We are now heading towards a tunnel with many monsters. Although there's a certain amount of risk there, the speed of gaining points will be much faster than in other places. We will arrive at noon tomorrow. At that time, the three of you can go ahead and scout the way. Make use of your abilities. You are newcomers, but since you are here, you have to come into contact with demons. You don't have to worry too much. It's not very dangerous there. Besides, there are so many of us here. Everyone will protect you. At this time, a man who was following beside the captain walked up to the three of them and gave them instructions for the next day. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two looked at each other and nodded. Okay. However, when they nodded, they did not ignore the strange gazes of the people around them. Chapter 65:48. Even if he didn't say anything, the three of them knew that the so-called tunnel was definitely not a good place. The so-called lack of danger and protection was purely a joke. It seems like we've been treated as stones. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Xiaohe looked puzzled. Master, what do you mean? Throwing stones to test the waters. Aren't we that stone? Then what should we do? Should we take advantage of the night and run away? Xiaohe asked, feeling relieved. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Since he dared to tell us this news today, it means that he's certain that we won't be able to escape today. Tonight, I'm afraid that many people will be watching us. Even those fellows who want us to leave the team will be watching us. Because if we run away, the stone might be someone else's tomorrow. Gong Jun, do you know where the tunnel they're talking about is? Di Baichen asked. Gong Jun looked ashamed. Boss, I've always been focusing on business. I didn't plan to participate in this monster slaying competition at all. Even if I did ask around before coming here, I still don't know much about the situation here. If I had known, I would have asked around before coming here. These fellows should have participated in several competitions, so that they know much more about the terrain here than we do. From the beginning, they've already had the upper hand. Di Baichen frowned slightly. They hadn't paid much attention to this at first, but now that he thought about it, they had been too naive. Being familiar with the terrain was already an irreversible advantage for many people. If that's the case, we'll have to be extremely careful when we enter the tunnel tomorrow. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression darkened. She suddenly looked at the man beside her and said, Baichun, what exactly are you planning? We're probably thinking of the same thing. Snatch their points? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. A hint of excitement appeared in her eyes. Di Baichen nodded slightly. Great minds think alike. Gong Jun's face also showed surprise. I think so too. If we can get their points, our points will definitely surpass many people. Therefore, the tunnel tomorrow is also a great opportunity for us. Since they value this place so much, the number of monsters must not be simple. This also means that the points will be very shocking. Di Baichen's eyes were deep. Even if they wanted to leave, they would have to wait until they came out of the tunnel. With so many points, how could they not collect them? Right at this time, Gong Jun slapped his forehead and said, I suddenly forgot something. What have you forgotten? Before I set off, my good friend gave me a book saying that it would be useful after entering the demon-slaughtering mountain range. I actually forgot about it. Although he's usually not very serious, he's very reliable when it comes to this kind of thing. Maybe there's a record in this book. Gong Jun took out a booklet and handed it to Di Baichun. After Di Baichun took it and opened it, His eyes suddenly lit up. The topography of the demon-slaughtering mountain range was drawn on it. In addition, it also marked which places had many monsters and which were very dangerous. It even recorded some secret paths. Chapter 65:49. D. Bachin thought about the route they had taken in the past 2 days, and the scene in the book was very similar. He suddenly sighed in his heart. If everything drawn in the book was true, then it would really be an amazing map. Bachin, what's wrong with you? It was rare to see such a strange expression on Bachin's face. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask, "Is this book helpful?" Gong Jun also looked nervous. They could only rely on this booklet. If this booklet couldn't help, then they really had no other way. This booklet will be of great help to us. D. Bachin's lips slowly curled into a smile. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Jun looked at each other. Both of their faces showed great joy. Really? Gong Jun looked excited. I knew this guy was very reliable at this time. He always pays attention to the matters of the demon-slaughtering mountains. This time, he didn't cheat me. Gong Jun, is this friend of yours the one we went to buy the booklet from? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Gong Jun nodded. Yes, it's him. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood. Previously, when Gong Jun praised this person so much, she had some doubts. Now it seemed that this person's means were really not simple. Did he sell this booklet to anyone else? If everything recorded in this booklet was true, it meant that the content would be of great help to everyone. Once everyone knew the content, then this advantage would no longer be an advantage. Hearing this, Gong Jun shook his head. Madam, don't worry. I can guarantee that he has never sold this booklet to anyone else, nor has he shown it to anyone else. That guy has swindled a lot of things from me. If it wasn't for our past friendship, I would have ignored him long ago. Now it seems that this guy still has some conscience. He gave this to me to save my life. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Such a booklet would be of great help in the demon-slaughtering mountains. The fact that the other party was willing to give it to Gong Jun already proved the depth of their relationship. Later, when everyone is resting, I will take a closer look at the location they mentioned and think of a solution. D. Bachin put away the booklet. Now that everyone was gathered together, if he suddenly took something out, it would inevitably attract attention. At night, after everyone had started to rest, D. Bachin took out the book. However, what he took out was an introduction to monsters that everyone could easily buy. He placed the booklet inside the book. Everyone lost interest just by looking at the familiar cover. They didn't even plan to look at it. These guys really just came to Shiyun City. They don't even know the species of monsters and are still reading. Could it be that they are preparing for tomorrow's exploration? Let them read it. Even if they read this book, it's useless. Isn't this what you want? You don't like them anyway. Forget it, forget it. There's really no need to pay attention to people who are about to die. Everyone waved their hands, obviously losing interest in the three of them. Chapter 65:50. Captain, why did you recruit the three of them in the first place? There's nothing special about them, and they have nothing to do with you. The man looked at the captain suspiciously. This question had been in his heart for a long time. Tonight, he couldn't help but ask. The captain turned to look at the man, and a sneer appeared in his eyes. There's nothing special about the three of them, but they are very useful to me. Please enlighten me. You should know that we work for Master Bai. It's the same every year. So you're saying that it was Master Bai's idea to recruit them? But does Master Bai want to protect them or torture them? If he wants to torture them, then these 2 days have been too much for them. If he wants to protect them, then tomorrow. Of course it's to deal with them. The captain chuckled. You know Master Bai's personality very well. He just doesn't want them to die too easily. Our goal is to lie to them and torture them. Then we'll tell them the truth before they die. In short, we'll do whatever Master Bai wants us to do. Understand? Captain, I understand. The man let out a sigh of relief and smiled. Because of the three of them, he had been in a terrible mood for the past 2 days. Now that he understood everything, he could finally relax. It's good that you understand. The captain nodded. For the past 2 years, our performance has not satisfied Master Bai. This time, no matter what, we have to succeed. We can't afford to make any more mistakes. Hearing this, the man sighed. The number of points needed to get first place is just too much. How powerful is Bai Qingli? Every time in the tournament, the number of beasts he slew is shocking. Our master may be very powerful, but compared to Bai Qingli, how dare you talk about our master like that? Are you tired of living? Captain, I wouldn't dare. I understand where you're coming from. Last year, Master Bai was second place. He's not far from first place. Our team has expanded. Who knows, we might be able to succeed today. Once we succeed, we'll be rewarded. Don't think about anything else. Just do your job. Yes. While the two of them were chatting happily, they did not notice that there was a nimble ball in the darkness. After listening to everything, it quietly disappeared into the darkness. Di Baichen looked at the situation depicted on the map while carefully observing the annotations at the back. He suddenly had some understanding of the tunnel tomorrow. According to the book, this tunnel is indeed a good place. Most of the creatures seen in other places were monsters, but there were some extremely rare spiritual herbs in the tunnel. These spirit herbs and monsters should have come from the same place. Previously, we thought that these monsters should have come from another plane, and these spirit herbs should have come from that plane. Someone once obtained the spirit grass here, and after taking it out, he auctioned it off for an extremely high price. That's right. Gong Jun's interest was piqued when he heard this. I've also heard about this matter. It's said that this demonic spiritual grass attracted a lot of attention. Chapter 65-51. Bailey Hongzhuang was originally only interested in the Fey crystal, but after hearing that there was a Fey spirit herb, she became even more interested. These spirit herbs should all lead to the same destination. The Fey spirit herb should be able to work together with other spirit herbs to produce different effects. Every stalk of spirit grass often had a very special effect, and this kind of spirit grass that had never been seen before might even be a treasure. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's expectant look, Di Baichen's eyes revealed a trace of affection. Don't worry, you will definitely encounter it tomorrow. When the time comes, if our plan is implemented, we will have to snatch all these Fey spirit herbs back. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. She didn't care about anything else but these Fey spirit herbs. She was very interested in them. When they returned to the forsaken immortal forest, they would give these Fey spirit herbs as gifts. Granny Hua would definitely like them. Gong Jun also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and immediately understood. If he wanted to please Madam in the future, he would have to start with herbs. The situation we will enter tomorrow is indeed a little dangerous, but just as Di Baichen and company were discussing tomorrow's operation, Xiao Bai had unknowingly climbed onto Di Baichen's shoulder. Did you hear anything? Master, your guess is right. This matter is indeed related to Bai Lu Chuan. Xiao Bai slowly recounted everything she had heard. After hearing all this, Di Baichen's expression became unfathomable. Baichen, did Xiao Bai hear something? Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze landed on Xiao Bai. Previously, after seeing the captain leave with another person, they had sent Xiao Bai to follow them. Clearly, she was here to report the news. So these people are all Bai Liu Chuan's men. The one who faked the score is also Bai Lu Chuan. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly taken aback. Bai Lu Chuan has been faking it, but I didn't see his name on the previous list. In the past, there's usually only the first name on the list. The names behind are unknown to everyone. I believe Bai Liu Chuan's name should be quite close to the front, Di Baichen said slowly. Gong Jun's face was full of disdain. With so many people helping him cheat, if his ranking is still so low, then wouldn't he be no different from a cripple? Gong Jun, in your opinion, is Bai Lu Chuan and Bai Qingli on good terms? Boss, why do you say that? Gong Jun was somewhat puzzled. According to what I know, Bai Lu Chuan and Bai Qingli are cousins. The two of them have been on good terms since they were young. Bai Lu Chuan often went in and out of City Lord Manor. He looked like a young master of City Lord Manor. However, because Bai Qingli is immersed in martial arts, she doesn't come out often. Although there are many rumors, I don't know how true they are. From the looks of it, their relationship isn't very good. At the very least, Bai Lu Chuan has other ideas behind his back. Di Baichen's eyes were warm. From everything Bai Lu Chuan had done, he could tell that this fellow was definitely not a good person. Could it be that Bai Lu Chuan wants to harm Bai Qingli? Gong Jun's eyes widened as a look of shock appeared on his face. City Lord only has one son, by Qingli. If he dies, Bai Luchuan might really take advantage of him. Chapter 65-52. Bai Luchuan tried every means to obtain first place? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. In that case, these people are Bai Luchuan's men and not Bai Qingli's men? Di Baichen nodded. Bai Luchuan has had this idea for a few years, but he hasn't succeeded. This Bai Qingli treats him so well, but he's still thinking of ways to do such things behind her back. That's interesting. There was a hint of mockery in her cold voice. This was like a farmer and a snake. No one knew what kind of ideas the good brother you had always thought of behind your back. Bai Luchuan is also a very famous young master in Xi'an City. However, once he meets Bai Qingli, everyone believes from the bottom of their hearts that the two of them aren't on the same level. I think he must have been suppressed for too long and is unwilling to submit to others. Gong Jun blinked his shrewd eyes, looking as though he had already seen through it. Although I've never seen this Bai Qingli before, I can tell from your description that she's definitely not on the same level as Bai Luchuan. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. She had a good impression of a martial arts fanatic because such people tended to have simple thoughts. They were obsessed with martial arts and didn't have many twists and turns. In comparison, Bai Luchuan clearly put more thought into other aspects. His cultivation level naturally couldn't compare to Bai Qingli's, so he could only use other means. Has Bai Qingli improved a lot in the past 2 years? Di Baichen suddenly asked. Upon hearing that, Gong Ju nodded and asked in puzzlement, Boss, how did you know? He hadn't mentioned anything about this before. Bai Luchuan's various methods might have increased his cultivation level. The corners of Di Baichen's lips curled into a faint smile. His deep eyes were like a vast ocean, rippling with a mysterious luster. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up as she immediately understood. In the past 2 years, Bai Luchuan's points have been constantly increasing. Bai Qingli felt the pressure, so she worked even harder in her cultivation. Instead, her strength improved even faster. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a smile. For a martial arts fanatic like him, he would never have thought that others would try to play tricks on him, let alone his own cousin. I didn't expect there to be such benefits to having a pure mind. Gong Jun was dumbfounded. This kind of thinking was indeed not something an ordinary person could have. Since you already know, let's rest. We'll act according to the situation tomorrow. Di Baichen put away the booklet. Originally, he was extremely worried about tomorrow, but after understanding the situation, this worry was obviously reduced by a lot. Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Jun slowly closed their eyes and began to take a nap. There were still many people in the surroundings who were worried that Di Baichen's trio would take advantage of the night to run away. However, they never thought that these three would actually be so careless. From the beginning to the end, they didn't have the slightest intention of running away. Instead, they had worried for nothing. The next day, the sun dispelled the misty fog, and everyone set off early in the morning. On this day, the three of them clearly felt that everyone was targeting them less. There were no more sour words, and it was much quieter. It wasn't until noon that everyone stopped in front of an area. Chapter 65-53. We have arrived at the tunnel. Zhong Yiluan turned around and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. He said, This is the tunnel we are going to. There are many monsters and some precious demonic spirit herbs in this tunnel. Every year, there will be some changes. You guys go in and explore. If there is no problem, let us know. We will go in immediately. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two didn't answer. They just looked at him quietly. Facing the slightly suspicious gazes of the three, Zhong Yiluan awkwardly coughed twice and said, Don't worry. All of us will follow behind you not far away. If there is any danger, as long as you shout, we will immediately appear. You don't believe what Captain said? This is a chance for you to gain experience. If you rely on us to protect you, how can you improve? Another man stood up and said. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the man blandly. This is the guy who always has a problem with us. If there is a chance, we will teach him a lesson. Let's go. The three of them walked out from the crowd with weapons in their hands. They slowly walked towards the tunnel. Zhong Yiluan felt relieved when he saw the three of them getting ready to go in. According to the experience of the past 2 years, there were two extremely powerful man-eating beasts in the tunnel. The fighting power of the man-eating beasts was shocking. Normally, the demon-slaughtering mountain was completely occupied by monsters. Therefore, it was rare for human cultivators or demonic beasts to show up here. That was why the man-eating beasts were always hungry. When they were hungry, the man-eating beasts would be extremely powerful. Even the three of them wouldn't be able to defeat them. However, if they were full, their combat power would be much weaker. They couldn't kill the man-eating beasts, but it was possible for them to go through. Now that they understood the rules, they were still a little confused about how to solve this problem. Now, the appearance of these three fellows had obviously solved their urgent problem. Master Bai was planning to teach these three a lesson. If they were eaten by the man-eating beast, it would be a painful death, and Master Bai would be satisfied with it. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two slowly walked into the tunnel, Zhong Yiluan slowly turned his gaze to the back. He knew that Master Bai was not far away from them. He knew that Master Bai was there. Luchuan, it is said that there are many monsters and treasures in this tunnel. Are we not going? Guani looked at the large group of people in front of him with a complicated look in his eyes. In this demon slaughter mountain range, there were a few places with many opportunities. Originally, he wanted to explore this tunnel. If he could harvest some never-before-seen demon spirit grass or other treasures here, his uncle would definitely be able to auction it off for a satisfactory price after bringing it back. Previously, because of him, his uncle had suffered a great loss, and he was also feeling very bad. This place is quite dangerous. Since so many people are willing to risk their lives for me, why should we go in by ourselves? A sneer appeared on by Liu Chuan's face. Do you know the number of cultivators who died here 2 years ago? Chapter 65-54. A sinister glint appeared in by Liu Chuan's eyes. There are a few places in the Demon Slaughter Mountain range where demons gather. Although the probability of heavenly treasures appearing is very high, the danger is also incomparable to other places. 2 years ago, the number of cultivators who died in this tunnel was astonishing. Even Bai Qingli almost couldn't come out when she first entered. Look at how famous this place is, but why isn't anyone else here? Hearing Bai Liu Chuan's words, Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman looked around. Indeed, there was no one else here other than them. They immediately understood. Other than the larger teams, small teams don't dare to come here, Bai Liu Chuan continued. I see. Guan Yi came to a realization as he secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, he had come with Bai Liu Chuan. Otherwise, if he had come alone, he might have fallen into danger. After all, he had just arrived in Xi'an City not long ago. His understanding of this place couldn't be compared to the local tyrants. Guan Yi, I know you came here to get a good ranking. After we see the results, we will set off to other places. Although this place isn't suitable for us to obtain points, there are still many other suitable places, Bai Liu Chuan said with a smile. That's great. Guan Yi heaved a sigh of relief. Although they had some gains in the past 2 days, he felt that this speed was still too slow. If he continued to delay like this, the possibility of him obtaining a place in the rankings was too small. Since Bai Liu Chuan had someone to help him, his points wouldn't be too little no matter what. However, he was different. He didn't have such a team to help him accumulate points. Zhong Yiluan is quite smart. He actually came up with such a method. This method of death is indeed quite suitable for the three of them. Yin Xiaoman's eyes lit up as she said with a smile, Brother Bai really has a way. Only this way can we completely vent our anger. Just thinking about it makes me happy. Since the three of them have already entered, we can also go over and take a look. I believe we will soon hear their screams. Bai Liu Chuan took a step forward and slowly walked forward. Guan Yi and the other two followed closely behind. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two entered the tunnel, they were extremely careful. They slowed down their footsteps and tried not to make any noise. According to the records, there are very powerful man-eating beasts here. They are even stronger than Radiant Sun Stage cultivators. The three of us are definitely no match for them, Di Baichen transmitted. Then what should we do? Gong Jun was stunned. Did that guy write down a way to break it? We just need to walk forward a little bit and try not to be noticed by the man-eating beasts. On the left, There's a rock blocking a small path that only allows one person to pass. As long as we can take advantage of the time before the beast reacts, we can safely pass through this tunnel. Di Beichun stared ahead. If everything was as described in the book, then they really had nothing to worry about. However, if the situation was different, it would be more troublesome for them to solve this round. Gong Jun heaved a sigh of relief. That's good. This guy is actually quite reliable in this aspect. There shouldn't be any problems. Chapter 65-55. This man-eating beast should also be of the dark attribute, right? Bailey Hongzhuang observed their surroundings. They had only just stepped in when a thick, dark aura rushed towards them. This aura might be difficult for other cultivators to accept, but to them, it was very easy. Indeed, most of these monsters are of the dark attribute. Gong Jun replied. Then as long as we release the dark attribute, I don't think we'll be targeted too much, right? Her ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with wisdom. Thinking back to when they had faced the skeleton army, this was the same method they had used. It should work. Madam, the method you mentioned can indeed be tried, but I don't know if it will be effective. Gong Jun looked nervous. I've heard that this man-eating beast is very scary. Previously, many people had directly become its food. Even if I'm going to die, I don't want to die like this. I don't want to die without a corpse. Hurry up and shut your crow's beak. Xiaohei could not help but speak up. The place was already gloomy from the moment they entered, and after hearing Gong Jun's words, they suddenly felt a cold wind blowing around them. It was extremely unsettling. Gong Jun also knew that he had said something wrong and immediately stopped talking. He followed the others and slowly walked forward. Everyone's footsteps were as light as possible. Dark energy lingered around them, trying not to be discovered. Roar! A beast's roar attracted the three's attention. Immediately after, they felt two powerful auras right in front of them. At this moment, they were pacing back and forth anxiously. The three of them were extremely tense. Their footsteps were even lighter, trying not to be affected. The book was right. The rock in front of us should be the rock mentioned in the book. Di Beichun looked at a rock on the left, and a glimmer of light appeared in his eyes. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang followed his gaze and looked forward. Indeed, there was a large rock in front of them. This rock looked very hidden. If it were not for the book's reminder, most people would not have noticed this place at all. Upon closer inspection, this rock looked as if someone had purposely blocked this place. Let's try to move this rock away, try to make as little noise as possible. Di Beichun's expression was serious. Now that the light in this tunnel was extremely dim, even if they could only hear some sounds, they could tell that there were definitely many monsters here. Once they moved this rock, no matter how little noise they made, they would definitely be sensed. Therefore, they had to hurry up and rush in as soon as they moved the rock and close it. Later on, don't fall behind. Di Beichun said. Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Jun nodded slightly. Both of them were serious and didn't dare to make a joke. The man-eating beast seemed to have sensed the approach of an unfamiliar aura, and its footsteps became noticeably faster. Rumble. When the three of them got closer to the rock, they realized that the rock was much heavier than they had imagined. However, they only hesitated for a short moment before they sped up and moved it away. When the man-eating beast heard the commotion, it understood that there must be other living creatures nearby. It immediately rushed over. Quickly go in. Di Beichun's anxious voice sounded. Chapter 65-56. Ah, a scream suddenly sounded. Gong Jun's face was filled with pain. Gong Jun, how are you? Are you okay? At this moment, the three of them were stuck in the passage. Bailey Hongzhuang was next to Di Beichun, and next to her was Gong Jun. From her current angle, she couldn't see Gong Jun's situation. It's over, it's over. I was bitten by a man-eating beast. I heard that man-eating beasts are highly poisonous. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes showed a trace of worry. Then let's quickly break through. Take this detoxification pill first. Hold on for a while. When there's more space, I'll immediately treat you. Thank you, madam, but I might be dying soon. Gong Jun's face was pale, and his face was filled with pain, but he still tried his best to gradually turn the stone back to its original shape. perfectly fitting it into the gap. The people who came later would never have thought that there would be a passage behind the giant stone. The only thing they could do was to walk through the man-eating beast. Gongjun, don't worry, there won't be a problem. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was nervous. They didn't know the fatty for long, but from his reaction just now, they could see that Gongjun treated him with sincerity. In this kind of critical moment, it was best to see a person's heart. He was willing to put himself in danger for Di Beichen. This was something that many people wouldn't be able to do. Di Beichen's face was also a little nervous. The two of them quickened their pace and walked forward. Because the path was too narrow, the three of them could only move sideways. Naturally, their speed couldn't be too fast. However, as they gradually came out, the space became a lot bigger, and there was a faint light bringing a trace of light. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang quickly came to Gongjun's side. The clothes on his arm had been bitten by the man-eating beast, but when she saw Gongjun's arm, her expression suddenly changed. "Madam, am I going to die?" Gongjun closed his eyes, not daring to look. "You're about to die." Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. Gongjun's face paled. "How can I be so miserable? My Immortal Treasure Pavilion business has just made some progress. How can I die so quickly? The heavens are really unfair. I think you want to be beaten to death." Bailey Hongzhuang sat on the ground, her whole body relaxed. Di Beichen noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's actions and took the opportunity to look at Gongjun's arm. He immediately understood what was going on. Gongjun's sleeve was only bitten. His skin was not injured at all. "You're not injured at all." Di Beichen's voice slowly rang out. Gongjun said, "Boss, you don't have to comfort me. I know I'm going to die. Open your eyes and take a good look. You're really not injured. I can clearly feel my blood constantly flowing. The stinging feeling is very obvious." Gongjun did not believe it at all. "Madam, even if you want to comfort me, you don't have to lie with your eyes open." "Who is the one who is lying with his eyes open?" "Di Beichen, I'll leave it to you." Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head. She really did not want to talk to this guy anymore. It was simply a waste of her feelings. "Take a good look." Only then did Gongjun slowly open his eyes. When he saw that his arm was safe and sound, he couldn't help but widen his eyes, and a look of astonishment appeared on his face. Chapter 65-57. Gongjun stood up, and his face was full of astonishment. "I clearly felt pain in my arm. I really didn't lie to you." Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the dazed Gongjun and said, "The pain you felt should be the tingling sensation caused by the saliva of the man-eating beast on your hand. However, your skin wasn't bitten, so you won't be poisoned. Don't worry." Hearing this, Gongjun carefully looked at his hand again. Sure enough, it was sticky and looked disgusting. "Oh my God, it's so disgusting." Gongjun took out a wad of tissue and immediately wiped the saliva on his arm. Only then did he feel that the pain in his body was much better. This man-eating beast is too disgusting. There's so much saliva. After seeing that Gongjun was safe and sound, Di Beichen was completely relieved and said, "Gongjun, your scream just now was not bad. Go over and scream again." Gongjun was slightly stunned, but he quickly understood Di Beichen's meaning. "Boss, I'm afraid it won't work if I scream alone. I'm afraid we have to create some fighting sounds." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and smiled. Zhong Iluan and the others wanted them to come to Songming. They might as well attract these guys and give them a big gift first. The three of them looked at each other, and the plan was already formed in their minds. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of fighting spread out, followed by heart-wrenching screams. The long sword fell to the ground, and everything returned to calm. Bailey Hongzhuang took out 2 pig trotters and gave them to Xiao He and Xiao Bai. "Eat." Zhong Iluan and the others had been waiting outside after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others go in. They were just waiting to listen to the movements inside. However, after the 3 of them went in, they waited for a while but didn't hear any sound. Suddenly, they began to wonder. "Captain, why is there no movement until now? Could it be that the situation inside has changed?" A complicated look appeared on Zhong Iluan's face. Logically speaking, that shouldn't be the case. It's like this every year, and there hasn't been any news of the human-eating beast being killed. It should have always been here. Then why hasn't there been any movement after so long? Bai Luchuan frowned. He was waiting to hear the commotion inside. If the three of them didn't die inside, wouldn't their efforts be in vain? Noticing Bai Luchuan's displeased expression, Zhong Yiluan said nervously, "Young Master Bai, don't worry. There will definitely be no problems. Luchuan, they have some ability. Maybe they can hold on for a while under the attack of this man-eating beast." Guan, he said slowly. When he thought of Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun, he felt that these two guys had a lot of tricks up their sleeves and were not easy to deal with. If he died so easily, he would feel that something was wrong. These man-eating beasts are very strong. They haven't eaten for a long time, so their fighting strength should be very shocking. Bai Luchuan pondered. This feeling made him very unhappy. However, just as everyone was thinking about it, a sharp scream suddenly came from inside. Upon hearing this voice, a look of joy appeared on everyone's faces. From the looks of it, the situation hadn't exceeded their expectations. However, after this scream, it suddenly fell into silence, and no sound could be heard. Chapter 65-58. It wasn't just Yin Xiaoman. Everyone present had a look of doubt on their faces. Logically speaking, once they were confronted by a man-eating beast, there should be endless screams. It was really strange that there was only one sound. However, this doubt didn't last long. In just a short period of time, screams came one after another. As the screams disappeared, everyone could vaguely hear the sound of chewing. As they were only standing outside and were still quite a distance away from the tunnel, they couldn't feel it clearly. Even so, they were still sure that the sound was chewing. Many cultivators had a look of discomfort on their faces. Even though they despised Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two, such a way of dying was not something an ordinary person could accept. A sneer appeared in Bai Luchuan's eyes. These three idiots probably didn't know what was going on until they died. However, with their level, they were indeed not worthy of knowing all this. After this man-eating beast is full, it will want to rest. If we wait until then to enter, the danger will be greatly reduced. As long as we pass through this tunnel as soon as possible, there won't be any problems. A smile appeared on Zhong Yiluan's face as he looked at Bai Luchuan ingratiatingly. You should have done well in this matter. Bai Luchuan nodded in satisfaction. Not bad. You did well in this matter. Hearing this, Zhong Yiluan immediately heaved a sigh of relief and felt at ease. Brother Bai, since there's no danger inside, why don't we all go in and take a look? Yin Xiaoman looked curious. She really wanted to go in and see what happened to Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Although she also felt that it was a pity that Deep Beichun died like this, she felt a burst of joy when she thought of Bailey Hongzhuang's disgusting face disappearing from this world forever. She wanted to see it with her own eyes. Bai Luchuan had already planned to leave, but after hearing this, he couldn't help but stop. He turned his head to look at Guan Yi and said, "Do you want to go in?" Guan Yi looked at the pitch-black tunnel in front of him. Even though he had heard all kinds of rumors about this tunnel, he still wanted to take a look. Luchuan, can we go in and have a look? Upon seeing this, Bai Luchuan chuckled and said, "Why not? I want to take you to other places first, but since you're so interested in this place, let's go in and take a look." Guan Yi and Yin Xiaoman smiled. They were really curious about the demon-slaughtering mountain range. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Gong Jun, who had also started to chew on the pig trotters. She could not help but think of Bai Lian Che, Xiao Xuanzi, and Linger. Come to think of it, other than Linger, all of their contracted beasts were gluttons. Now, even the friends he made were like this. It really made him speechless. You don't say this poor trotter tastes really good. Gong Jun lowered his voice and laughed while eating. It's very chewy. Hee hee. The corner of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth twitched. Then you should eat more. After sensing that there was an aura gradually approaching the tunnel, Deep Beichun gave a look. Gong Jun, Xiao He, and Xiao Bai stopped. Chapter 65-59. Zhong Yiluan walked at the front of the team, with Bai Luchuan and the other two behind him. Be careful, young master. It's very dark here, and the dark energy here is very dense. Even if you light a match, it will be extinguished very quickly. It won't be of much use. Bai Luchuan understood. Everyone, be careful. Raise your five senses. Their eyes were obviously useless here, but they could still sense the surrounding situation through their other senses and elemental energy. Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman carefully followed behind. As soon as they entered, they had already sensed that the dark energy inside was far denser than outside. This feeling was like a sealed land. The dark energy had been fermenting here for a whole year, and when they arrived, they naturally felt the dense dark energy. Roar! When the man-eating beasts heard the series of footsteps, a fierce light flashed in their eyes. They, who had been hungry for a long time, finally found their prey, and there was a hint of excitement in their ferocity. When Zhong Yiluan heard the sound, he couldn't help but frown. Logically speaking, the man-eating beasts had just eaten, so their reactions shouldn't be so sharp. However, he didn't take it to heart. The man-eating beasts that have eaten their fill don't have to kill people. However, everyone still has to be careful when passing through. Don't hurt the man-eating beasts, otherwise, you will be the one at a disadvantage. Everyone nodded one after another as they looked around with solemn expressions. This dark environment gave people an indescribable pressure. They felt that the air was gradually being sucked out, and even breathing became difficult. Young Master Bai, we will go and scout the path first. It won't be too late for you to come after confirming that there are no problems, Zhong Yiluan said loyally. Bai Luchuan nodded in satisfaction. Okay. Zhong Yiluan then turned to look at the few people who were on good terms with him and transmitted his voice. Today is a good opportunity to perform. As long as you perform well, your future will be limitless. Not only do you have to take good care of young Master Bai, but you also have to give him face in front of his friends. Do you understand? Captain, don't worry. We all understand. Everyone nodded one after another, as if they had already understood all of this long ago. However, just as Zhong Yiluan and the others were moving forward, two beastly roars suddenly sounded. Then, everyone felt a terrifying gust of wind sweep past, and a heavy landing sound suddenly sounded. Bang! One of the cultivators was directly sent flying by a terrifying force. His body slammed heavily into the wall, and two of his ribs broke at the first moment. The sudden situation caused everyone to fall into a temporary panic, but they quickly recovered. Zhong Yiluan held his sword with a solemn and tense expression. Beast, you are courting death. In the next moment, Zhong Yiluan's figure flew and attacked, and fiercely. At the same time, the other cultivators didn't dare to delay and attacked at the first moment. Even though the man-eating beasts, their combat power, they still couldn't be underestimated. They were, with their strengths as there's they and Nessiluan's young masters buys white. As you when buys when we master. Tease. This. Chapter 6560. A terrifying power erupted as an incomparably tyrannical aura swept through the area. Mixed with the furious roar of the man-eating beast, it broke the original tranquility of the tunnel. Originally, Zhong Yiluan was not too worried about the strength of the man-eating beasts. According to the information he received from the previous few times, a Radiant Sun Realm cultivator would be able to dodge the man-eating beasts as long as they were nimble enough. However, when they exchanged blows, he realized that the situation wasn't like that at all. The man-eating beast's strength was just too terrifying. It wasn't something he could resist. How could this be? Zhong Yiluan was dumbfounded. What kind of problem was this? Be careful. A scream rang out. Zhong Yiluan raised his alertness to 200%. He clearly knew how terrifying the man-eating beast's strength was. If he wasn't careful, he would lose his life. At this moment, a cultivator had already been ruthlessly stepped on by the man-eating beast. At the same time, a hand was stuffed into the man-eating beast's mouth like food. A heart-wrenching scream rang out. Immediately, they felt a chill in their hearts. The sound made their hearts ache. After the man-eating beast ate some food, it became even hungrier, and the speed of its actions became even faster. What's going on? Could it be that the man-eating beast isn't full yet? Yun Xiaoman's beautiful face was dyed with a trace of paleness. Her body constantly retreated and leaned against the wall. At this moment, she began to regret coming here. She wished that she could immediately leave this tunnel. It was just too terrifying. While Liuchuan's expression was also very ugly. He couldn't understand and said, "Logically speaking, it shouldn't be like this. What exactly is the problem?" Guan Yi also had a face of worry. Under such circumstances, he felt that even his brain was numb. He couldn't think of any clues at all. Although Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were separated from the main group by a wall, they could still hear the commotion inside clearly. Immediately, a faint smile appeared on the faces of the three of them. Those who are unjust are doomed to destruction. They deserve it. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly stood up. Now that they had finished watching the show, it was time to get down to business. I heard that there are a lot of demon spirit herbs in this tunnel. These guys will probably waste a lot of time here. Why don't we go and get the treasure first? Hearing this, Gong Jun nodded repeatedly. Good. Let's go and snatch all the heaven and earth treasures inside. I'm sure their expressions will be very interesting when they come out. Di Beichen also walked outside. His footsteps were very fast, but when he landed, it was very light. It was as if he was stepping on a feather. There was no movement at all. In comparison, it was undoubtedly much more difficult for Gong Jun to achieve this. Fortunately, the sounds of battle were ringing out in the tunnel, and no one would notice their movements. After walking for a while, Bailey Hongzhuang could clearly see the scene in front of her. This place was like a garden, but it was different from the gardens they usually saw. Almost everything here was black, and even the flowers were mostly black. There were also some bright red flowers blooming in this darkness, which made them look particularly dazzling. Are these flowers or demon spirit herbs? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. There was a trace of complexity in her eyes. Chapter 65-61. Di Beichen's brows furrowed in worry. They were all stumped by this. They really didn't have any understanding of these things. Boss, I heard that there are a lot of demon spirit herbs in this tunnel. Since we don't recognize them, we might as well take as many as we can and judge them after we bring them back. Gong Jun had a casual look on his face. It was just that simple to use his linear thinking to think of problems. Anyway, they would bring back the useful and useless ones. They would be able to distinguish them when the time came. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also said, "Then let's pack these things up first. Take as many as you can." This wasn't a good idea, but it was the best idea at the moment. Xiao He and Xiao Bai didn't delay. They quickly jumped down and began to help pick the demon spirit herbs. Be careful when you pick the demon spirit herbs. Many demons are plants. If you're not careful and get attacked, you'll inevitably be injured, Di Beichen reminded them. They had already read a lot of related content from the books. There were drawings of some plant demons. These demons were hidden among the plants and weren't easy to find. It was said that many people had suffered in the previous demon slaying competition because of this. Once they encountered a poisonous demon, it was very likely that they would lose their lives. Everyone nodded. Although their hands moved quickly, they still carefully paid attention to these plants in case they encountered a demon that was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. In fact, everything was just as Di Beichen had warned. There were indeed some demons in here. Bailey Hongzhuang held a dagger and directly cut down a demon. The plant gradually turned into mist and disappeared. There were many plants in this circular garden. If they were to slowly pick them up, it would take a lot of time. Therefore, everyone knew that it was impossible for them to pick everything here. Therefore, everyone chose to pick some plants that looked like demon spirit herbs and put them away. "Boss, what should we do later?" Gong Jun asked as he picked the immortal spirit herbs. If they left now, they wouldn't lose anything. It was just that their original plan was to take all the points of these guys. If they didn't take them, they would have fallen behind the others by a lot in the past few days. Di Beichen's gaze fell on the dark tunnel in front of them. He then withdrew his gaze and said, "When they clear this path, we'll go back." Hearing this, Gong Jun and Bailey Hongzhuang were slightly stunned, but they quickly understood. "It seems that we have to continue pretending." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. "But when they see us, their expressions should be very funny. If you sent someone to scout ahead, and the other party came back later than you, it would definitely be a very interesting feeling. However, Bai Luchuan and the other two are also in this team. Once we appear, they will know that their plan has been exposed. In their anger, they might lead everyone to attack us. Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with a trace of seriousness. She couldn't let her guard down in this situation. Facing these despicable people, it would be troublesome if they were to be schemed against. Wife, this will depend on you. Di Baichen looked around and suddenly smiled. Chapter 65-62. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 3 people and 2 beasts who could freely pick the immortal spirit grass, Bai Luchuan and the others were in a much worse situation. After Zhong Yilun was seriously injured, he finally understood that the man-eating beast hadn't eaten anyone at all. The man-eating beast is still in a hungry state. Zhong Yilun revealed a look of horror. He couldn't understand why Bailey Hongzhuang and company had clearly disappeared. Logically speaking, they should have already become the man-eating beast's food. If they had known this would happen, they wouldn't have rushed in. However, the man-eating beast had already treated all of them as food. Its attacks continued. Although they were barely able to deal with it, no one was a match for it. After all, the man-eating beast's combat strength in a hungry state was much stronger than an ordinary Radiant Sun Realm cultivator. Could it be that the 3 of them have already made it through? A look of surprise appeared in Guan Yi's eyes. He quickly recalled the scene when they had entered, and his mind immediately went blank. There's no smell of blood. There's no smell of blood. Hearing Guan Yi's words, Bai Luchuan frowned. The surroundings were filled with the smell of blood, but Guan Yi had said such baffling words. He really didn't know what he meant. Brother Yi, what do you mean? Yun Xiaoman asked in confusion. When we came in, we didn't smell any blood. The moment this was said, everyone present was alarmed. After thinking for a moment, they understood. If the 3 of them had really been eaten by the man-eating beast, then they should have smelled a strong smell of blood when they entered. However, when they entered, there was no relevant smell in the entire tunnel other than the dark aura. Bai Luchuan and company's faces turned ashen. If all of this was true, then the sounds they had heard outside, were they being tricked? Ah! A scream sounded as a cultivator became the man-eating beast's food. Zhong Yilun was already seriously injured. Taking advantage of the man-eating beast's eating, he ignored everything and rushed forward like a madman. As long as he rushed out of this range, he would at least be safe. After all, there were still many people behind him. The man-eating beast wouldn't give up on a group of people just to chase him alone. As Zhong Yilun rolled and disappeared nearby, the cultivators in front began to take advantage of this opportunity to rush inside. Young master, take this opportunity to rush over. Zhong Yilun's anxious voice rang out from inside. Upon hearing this voice, a hint of hesitation appeared in Bai Luchuan's eyes. He only thought that with so many people here, it wouldn't be too late for him to take action when it was safer. Big brother Bai, they've all started to retreat. Should we also retreat? Yin Xiaoman noticed that the cultivators behind her had unknowingly started to rush to the back, and a trace of panic suddenly appeared on her face. The cultivators at the front had already thought of ways to avoid the man-eating beasts, while the cultivators at the back were rapidly retreating. If they didn't hurry up and make a decision, things would be troublesome. Only then did Bai Luchuan notice the situation behind him. Immediately, his expression turned extremely ugly. Young master, come over quickly. Otherwise, you'll be in danger. Chapter 65-63. Luchuan, we can't wait any longer. Guan Yi's face also revealed a trace of nervousness. Bai Luchuan nodded slightly. The current situation made him extremely dissatisfied, but he also understood that it was impossible for these guys to rush up again. Let's go. Bai Luchuan's elemental energy surged as his body quickly flew out. At the same time, Guan Yi and Yin Xiaoman's speed was not slow at all. At this time, as long as their movements were slightly slower, they might be caught by the man-eating beast. Ah! Yin Xiaoman suddenly screamed. She realized that the man-eating beast was actually rushing towards her. Immediately, she was completely dumbfounded. Xiaoman, be careful! Guan Yi hurriedly shouted. Perhaps it was out of instinct, but Yun Xiaoman felt that there was a figure in front of her. Without thinking, she immediately pushed the figure forward. Following that, she rushed forward as if she had gone crazy. Ah! Another shriek rang out, and after hearing this familiar voice, everyone's expression changed. "Young master, are you all right?" Zhong Yiluan's face was pale. If anything happened to Bai Luchuan, he really couldn't bear the responsibility. "Who pushed me just now?" Bai Luchuan's voice rang out as he gnashed his teeth. Because of that step, his arm was directly scratched by the man-eating beast. The intense pain kept coming, and what made him even more alarmed was the man-eating beast's poison. It was said that man-eating beasts were highly toxic. Anyone who was close to or injured by them would die if they couldn't find the antidote quickly. When Yin Xiaoman heard this roar, she immediately panicked. She recalled her subconscious actions earlier. If she hadn't pushed Bai Luchuan out, then the person who was injured would be her. Fortunately, the light here was too dim and there were many cultivators around. As long as she didn't admit it, Bai Luchuan probably wouldn't be able to recognize her. Zhong Yiluan quickly rushed in front of Bai Luchuan and said, "Young master, are you injured? Quickly help me out." Bai Luchuan's face was ashen. He was extremely dissatisfied with Zhong Yiluan's performance. However, he also understood that in this situation, the most important thing was to leave this place first. Otherwise, there would be more trouble. After Bailey Hongzhuang finished setting everything up, she heard the screams coming from the tunnel. She raised her eyebrows slightly, as if she was watching a good show. Previously, they had not fought with the man-eating beast, but just from the aura they had sensed, they could tell that the man-eating beast's strength was terrifying. Thinking about it, Zhong Yiluan and the others must have suffered great losses in the battle. If they were caught off guard, their losses would only be greater than before. At this moment, they heard the sound of footsteps gradually approaching their location. The three of them looked at each other and immediately rushed back into the original path. Speaking of which, it was quite interesting. This path seemed to have been specially opened up by someone. There was a huge rock blocking both the front and back. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to find any clues. As the three of them walked into the passageway, they planned to return to their original spot and enter from the main road again. These man-eating beasts should have eaten their fill by now, so the danger of them entering should be much lower. While walking, Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised to hear Guan Yi's voice. Chapter 65-64. Hearing this voice, the three of them weren't in a hurry to leave. Instead, they stopped and listened to the commotion outside. Where are those three fellows? As soon as he walked out of the tunnel, Bai Luchuan roared in exasperation. This was simply infuriating. They had schemed to come up with such a scheme so that the three of them would die without a burial ground. Now that the three of them had disappeared, he was the one who had suffered such a huge loss. Although Zhong Yiluan was already seriously injured, after hearing this voice, he hurriedly shouted for the cultivators beside him to search the surroundings. They had to quickly find these three fellows. Only by doing so would Bai Luchuan's anger be appeased. Otherwise, they would be the unlucky ones. However, as everyone circled around and didn't see a single person, their expressions became very blank. "Captain, the three of them aren't here. How is this possible?" Zhong Yiluan's face was filled with disbelief. "I clearly saw them enter with my own eyes. How could they disappear into thin air? Could it be that the three of them didn't come in at all?" Yin Xiaoman was also dumbfounded. However, they had clearly seen the three of them enter first and heard their screams and the movements of the man-eating beast. No matter which angle they looked at it from, it was impossible for them to go out. Could it be that they've already walked past here? Guan Yi asked. Perhaps they realized that it would be very dangerous to continue following you, so they took the opportunity to leave. That's possible. Zhong Yiluan's expression was complicated. He looked at Bai Luchuan with some fear and immediately retracted his gaze. He originally thought that the plan was flawless, but he never expected such a change to happen. He was afraid that he would be punished by Master Bai. A bunch of trash. Bai Luchuan's face was ashen. It was unknown whether it was because of anger or poison, but his entire face looked abnormally ferocious. "Brother Bai, your arm is injured. What about the poison?" Yin Xiaoman pretended to be concerned and asked. Everyone followed Yin Xiaoman's gaze and noticed that the wound on by Liu Chuan's arm looked extremely ferocious. The bright red blood had already been dyed with some black, and there was a faint tendency for it to fester. Liu Chuan, didn't you already take the antidote pill? Is it useless? Guan Yi hurriedly asked. Bai Liu Chuan couldn't hide the depressed look on his face. This man-eating beast poison has always been terrifying. Even if one takes an antidote pill, it will only temporarily slow down the spread of the poison. If I want to cure the poison completely, I'm afraid I'll have to go out and find a pharmacist. Won't you waste a few days going back and forth? Guan Yi was shocked. It took them 3 days to get here. Chapter 65-65. Due to the poisoning, Bai Liuchuan's speed of obtaining points had been forced to slow down. If he were to punish Zhong Yiluan, it would only make the situation worse. Upon hearing this, Zhong Yiluan immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He felt relieved. Young master, don't worry. I'll definitely obtain points as soon as possible. Bai Liuchuan nodded slightly. All right, young master, if I see the 3 of them in the future, should I kill them directly? Or, if we haven't fallen out, then watch the 3 of them first. I want to deal with them personally. Bai Liuchuan's eyes were sinister and vicious. Not only had they played with them, but they had also caused him to suffer such serious injuries. If he didn't teach the 3 of them a lesson personally, he wouldn't be able to vent the hatred in his heart. As Bai Liuchuan's words fell, everyone present couldn't help but feel their hearts tremble. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang and company were doomed. Liu Chuan, your injuries are so serious. Do you want me to accompany you back? Guan Yi asked with concern. Bai Liuchuan's gaze immediately softened. The matter of being poisoned and injured made him very unhappy. However, for Guan Yi to say such words at such a time, it was clear that he truly treated him as a friend. There's no need. I have no choice now. I can only delay it for a few days. You still have to work hard to get into the top 10. Time can't be delayed. But your injuries, don't worry. I'll find someone else to accompany me. Don't worry. Then be careful. Yin Xiaoman was also feigning concern. She recalled her actions and felt a lingering fear. Fortunately, her surroundings were pitch black and she didn't see anything. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to withstand Bai Liuchuan's anger. Bai Liuchuan actually wants to deal with us personally at this time. What a fool. Gong Jun had a look of disdain. From his point of view, any enemy had to make a move from the beginning. The more it was like this, the faster they would lose. Fortunately, this fellow was a fool. Otherwise, their situation would be much more difficult than it was now. Boss, should we go out now? Gong Jun turned to look at Di Beichen. They had originally wanted to take this opportunity to threaten Zhong Yiluan so that he would give them all the points, but now that the main character had appeared, they were afraid that things would go out of their control if they went. I'm not going out, Di Beichen said calmly. Then we'll go out after Bai Liuchuan and company leave. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows slightly. They still needed to make use of this team. If they directly exposed everything now, they would not be able to make use of them. This was not a wise move. As long as the 3 of them leave, it will be much easier for us to control this team. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally understood Di Beichen's plan. For the current them, it was best not to make a move on things that could be easily solved. It was best to be in their best condition at all times. I'll listen to you, Gong Jun said with a smile. After such a thing happened, Guan Yi and Yin Xiaoman sent Bai Liuchuan out of the tunnel and didn't stay for long. The 2 of them were actually very embarrassed. If it weren't for them, Bai Liuchuan wouldn't have entered the tunnel, so he naturally wouldn't have been injured. Therefore, they didn't have the face to stay here to obtain the demon spirit herb, so they simply left. After sensing that Guan Yi and company had left, Bailey Hongzhuang and company walked in from the entrance. Chapter 65-66. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. Such a strong smell of blood was extremely uncomfortable in this environment. However, they had already seen such a scene several times, so they weren't too uncomfortable. In comparison, Gong Jun really couldn't stand it. Oh my god, these man-eating beasts are really scary. I can even hear the sound of chewing. Gong Jun hugged his arms, feeling goosebumps all over his body. These man-eating beasts are eating. Let's be careful and jump over. Di Beichen's expression was solemn. Even if they were enemies with Zhong, Yiluan, and the others, they knew that the other party's strength wasn't weak. Everyone was a radiant sun stage cultivator, but they had suffered such heavy losses at the hands of these man-eating beasts. It could be seen that these man-eating beasts were really terrifying. Let's go. Everyone protect yourselves. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes narrowed. Her mind was already tense. Through her mental energy, she could sense the location of the two man-eating beasts. Just as they had heard, the man-eating beasts were chewing on the corpses and hadn't noticed the movements of the three of them. Feeling the aura from a closer distance, she felt that the strength of these two man-eating beasts was probably not much different from the elementary immortal stage. It was no wonder that so many people had died at their hands. So. The three of them were like the wind and immediately jumped out. When the man-eating beasts that were eating sensed the aura approaching, they roared angrily, put down their food, and rushed over. The three of them flashed through the gap like green smoke, causing the two man-eating beasts to miss. After Bailey Hongzhuang landed, she didn't dare to stop at all. She quickly rushed forward for a distance before stopping. At the same time, Di Beichun appeared beside her. "Boss, madam, wait for me." Gong Jun ran over from behind, panting. In a short time, his forehead was already sweating. "You ran pretty fast. You weren't hurt, right?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "That man-eating beast is so scary. If I don't run faster, I'm afraid I'll lose my life." Gong Jun's face was full of fear. Now that I think about it, what they said is true. The reaction speed of the man-eating beast is indeed much slower after eating. When we first came in, the man-eating beast's speed was much faster. Indeed, Di Beichen nodded. He had also noticed this. If Zhong, Yiluan, and the others had not miscalculated, they would definitely be laughed at by the man-eating beasts. If that was the case, they would not be in too much danger. There are quite a few monsters in this tunnel. We have to be careful. Their surroundings were still pitch black, but with the help of their mental strength, even though they couldn't see anything with their eyes, everything around them was clearly reflected in their minds. "Boss, we still don't have any points. Why don't we take advantage of this opportunity to hunt monsters and earn some points?" Gong Jun suggested. All right. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang didn't object. If Bai Luchuan wasn't injured, the others wouldn't have left the tunnel. It wasn't a bad idea to give them this opportunity. The sound of metal resounded in the tunnel. After exchanging blows, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that most of these monsters were of the darkness attribute. Despite being plants, their combat strength was not to be underestimated. Chapter 65-67. The points on the scoreboard began to gradually increase. A moment later, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen in surprise and said, "You killed the monsters so quickly?" The three of them had split up to hunt the monsters. However, she found that Di Beichen was much faster than her. Di Beichen was also a little surprised. These monsters didn't seem to have any resistance. "I just made a move and they died." Such a smooth situation was different from everyone's usual description. Not only that, when he first entered the demon slaughtering mountain range, he also felt that it wasn't difficult to deal with the monsters. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was silent for a moment and said, "I think it might be because your dark attribute is extremely pure, so it's faster to deal with these monsters." Maybe. Di Beichun frowned slightly. He vaguely felt that things shouldn't be like this, but thinking about it carefully, there was no other explanation. Gong Jun silently looked at Di Beichun and said with a smile, "Boss, you're naturally gifted. This is what you should do." Just as the three of them were hunting the monsters in the tunnel, Zhong, Yiluan, and the others were also collecting the demon spirit grass outside. "Captain, I don't understand how the three of them passed the man-eating beasts." The man stood beside Zhong Yiluan, his face full of confusion. Could it be that their strength is very high, and everything before was just a disguise? According to his previous observation, the three of them were not very strong. Except for Gong Jun, who had stayed in Shiyun City for a few years, the other two guys had just ascended. Their strength was definitely not that strong. Under such circumstances, the three of them were able to leave smoothly. It was too illogical. Zhong Yiluan's expression was also very complicated. I don't understand this either. If their strength can easily avoid the man-eating beasts, then their strength is very terrifying. The two of them suddenly looked at each other and suddenly felt a little creeped out. Sure enough, the people that the young master asked them to deal with were not simple. Just as the two of them were talking, a series of footsteps suddenly came from the tunnel. Hearing this voice, the expressions of everyone present changed, and they all turned towards the source of the voice. At this moment, only a portion of the cultivators had arrived. Many of them had already retreated to the entrance after sensing the danger of the man-eating beasts. Who would be the one entering at this moment? Io, we're finally out. The situation inside is completely different from what Captain said. His voice was heard before he even saw him. However, after hearing this familiar and annoying voice, everyone's expression became extremely interesting. Is that Gong Jun's voice? Didn't they leave already? Why are you in the tunnel? What the hell is going on? Could it be that they came in after us? Before seeing Gong Jun come out, everyone had already started discussing. This situation was really too strange. There was clearly only one path in this tunnel, so how could they not see Gong Jun and the other two along the way? This did not make any sense at all. However, when everyone saw the three familiar figures with their own eyes, everyone's expression was as if they had seen a ghost. Captain, why are you guys here earlier than us? Gong Jun looked at Zhong Yiluan in surprise, his face full of surprise. Chapter 65-68. Looking at Gong Jun's surprised face, Zhong Yiluan couldn't help but break down. Earlier than you, I want to know why you were so late. Gong Jun, what took you so long? Zhong Yiluan looked at the three of them, especially when he saw that the three of them were unharmed, and only Gong Jun's sleeves were torn. His face looked even worse. If it weren't for the three of them, they wouldn't have lost so much, and they wouldn't have angered Master Bai. Gong Jun eagerly walked over with a trace of a puzzled smile on his face. He looked harmless to humans and animals, just like a fatty who didn't know anything and was easy to deceive. Captain, we followed your orders and went into the tunnel. We wanted to check it out, so we will inform you. Not long after we came in, we felt the breath of the man-eating beast. We felt that the beast was very powerful. When we were about to call you, there was nothing under our feet. We didn't know where we landed. After that, we realized that it was an illusion. It took us a lot of effort to get out of the illusion. As Gong Jun's voice fell, everyone was even more surprised. They had never even thought of such a thing. However, looking at the calm faces of Gong Jun and the other two, it didn't look like they were lying. All of a sudden, they couldn't tell. Illusion? How could there be an illusion in the tunnel? Zhong Yiluan didn't believe it. Gong Jun, however, had a serious look on his face. Captain, I'm not lying to you. Otherwise, you saw us come in, and we didn't go out. How could we appear after you? Zhong Yiluan looked at Gong Jun suspiciously. These words happened to be the biggest doubt in his heart. Although he also felt that the news of the illusion was very unreliable, thinking about it carefully, this was the only way to explain the situation. I wanted to warn you, Captain, but the illusion appeared too suddenly. I only had time to scream. That's not right. Zhong Yiluan frowned. I heard you scream first, and then I heard Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. You can't tell me that you fell into the illusion in batches, right? At that moment, Zhong Yiluan's eyes became sharp, as if he had something on Gong Jun. He didn't give him any room to think. Not only Zhong Yiluan, the other's eyes became unfriendly. However, Gong Jun's face was calm. That's not the case. First, I came into contact with a man-eating beast. It only used its mouth to bite open my sleeve, and its saliva landed on my hand, causing me great pain. When we were dodging, we accidentally fell into the illusion. Everyone's gaze landed on Gong Jun's arm. They discovered that his sleeve was indeed torn, and there was a large patch of red on his skin. It was as if a man-eating beast's saliva had landed on his arm. Zhong Yiluan retracted his gaze, and the doubts in his heart were gradually resolved. I didn't expect these fellas to be so lucky. They could escape under such circumstances. Captain, what should we do now? The man asked. If Master Bai knew that it was such a mistake, he would be even angrier. Chapter 65-69. Zhong Iluan's mood was complicated. He thought for a while and said, "Tell the others not to reveal our intentions. Since the Master said to keep him alive, then we will wait. As long as the Master comes back, they will die." The man nodded. "Leader, don't worry. I will tell the others." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the man. Even an idiot could guess that the two of them were discussing what to do. It was a pity that they had heard everything clearly from behind. So, they knew that Zhong Iluan and the others would not do anything to them. On the contrary, they would still be in the same condition, or even better than before. At this time, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes fell on Zhong Iluan's body. "Captain, you seem to be injured." "It's fine." Zhong Iluan waved his hand awkwardly. The other party was unharmed, but he, as the captain, was seriously injured. It was really embarrassing to think about it. "Do you want me to take a look?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked. "No need." Zhong Iluan's expression was solemn. He now felt that these three fellows were very evil. They clearly looked very simple, but they had suffered a great loss in their hands. He decided to stay put for a few days and wait for Master Bai to come back before making a decision. Bailey Hongzhuang did not insist. She walked to the side and sat down to rest. "There are a lot of demonic herbs here. If we go further, there will be monsters. We will stay here today. After we deal with the things here, we can leave." Everyone nodded in agreement. Even though they didn't walk very far today, after the incident with the man-eating beast, everyone felt very tired and even felt a little drowsy. Night gradually fell. After everyone killed the demons in the vicinity, they took out a formation to prevent the demons from approaching at night. Only then did they rest at ease. Almost as soon as the formation was completed, everyone could no longer suppress the sleepiness in their hearts. They all closed their eyes and fell into a deep sleep. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the cultivators sleeping around her, a trace of a sneer appearing in her eyes. "Madam, your medicine is really effective." Everyone fell asleep just like that, and they didn't feel anything wrong at all. Gong Jun looked at the scene in front of him in astonishment. This medicine was really too powerful. These were all Radiant Sun Realm cultivators. They did not feel anything. "My medicine's effect is also good." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "Will they wake up?" "Don't worry. They will not wake up for a few hours." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichun and said, "Beichun, we should move." Di Beichun slowly stood up and walked in the direction of Zhong Iluan. When Zhong Iluan woke up, he saw the three faces in front of him. He screamed, "Ah!" As he sat up, he found that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two had already sat down beside him. Their faces looked casual and did not seem to be a threat. Only then did he feel at ease. "What are you doing here?" "Leader, we have something to discuss with you." Chapter 65-70. Seeing Zhong Iluan's arrogant look, Gong Jun gave him a backhand slap. "Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to my boss like that?" The sudden slap left Zhong Iluan dumbfounded. He stared blankly at the three people in front of him, wondering if he was dreaming about them. He actually dreamed of these three fellows? "Boss, don't tell me this fellow has been beaten silly by me." Gong Jun couldn't help but ask when he saw Zhong Iluan looking at him in a daze. He muttered to himself, "Could it be that cultivators at the Radiant Sun Realm are so weak? Can a single slap make someone stupid?" Zhong Iluan felt a burning pain on his face and realized that he wasn't dreaming. He had really been beaten by the fatty. "How dare you hit me?" Zhong Iluan stood up angrily, his face flushed red from anger. Today he had already been reprimanded by Bai Luchuan because of these three fellows. It was already good that he didn't take the opportunity to kill them, but they actually dared to find trouble with him. They were courting death. "So what if I hit you?" Gong Jun sneered and extended his hand to slap him again. "You want us to send ourselves to our deaths? Why don't you check if you have the brains to do so?" Upon hearing that, Zhong Iluan realized that everything the three fellows had said was a pretense. They had long seen through his trick, so they didn't fall for it. Even so, he still couldn't figure out how the three fellows had cracked the trap. Just the thought of it left him shuddering. "Men, men, men." Zhong Iluan shouted at everyone in panic. At that moment, he was already in a panic. After the battle during the day, his injuries had yet to recover. Even though the three people in front of him were opponents he had always looked down on, he was no match for them now. However, when Zhong Yilun shouted loudly, Bailey Hongzhuang and company wore calm expressions as they looked at him mockingly. Go ahead and shout. It's useless even if you shout until the sky shatters, Bailey Hongzhuang said indifferently. Earlier, when they had decided to make their move here, she had already drugged this place. However, the effects of the medicine were very slow. Everyone would unconsciously inhale it and fall into a deep slumber. After Zhong Yilun shouted a few times, he realized that everyone around him was still in their dreams and did not respond. His face turned pale in an instant. He looked at the three people in horror and said, "What did you do to everyone? Don't worry, he won't die. He'll just be unconscious for a while," Bailey Hongzhuang said lightly. After knowing that the others were not dead, Zhong Yilun was relieved. He said with an ashen face, "What do you want to do? Captain, are all the points you have to give to Bai Luchuan?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked slowly. Zhong Yilun's expression changed. What nonsense. There's no such thing. At this point, it's useless for you to talk nonsense with us. We've already seen through it. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent as she ignored his explanation. Di Beichin also said, "What we want you to do is very simple. In a month, hand over all your points to us." The moment that was said, Zhong Yilun's eyes widened. Without thinking, he rejected, "That's impossible." Chapter 65-71. What do you mean by that? Zhong Yilun asked in bewilderment. These people can be drugged by me. What do you think you can do? Bailey Hongzhuang said casually. Zhong Yilun's eyes flickered as he probed. Do you want to kill me? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. If you work for me, I'll naturally spare your life. But if you're unwilling, don't tell me. I'll keep you alive if I don't kill you. Why do you think I'll agree to it? Zhong Yilun quickly thought of a way to deal with it. He wasn't a match for the three of them, so it was obvious that he couldn't take the opportunity to leave. The only thing he could do was to pretend to agree and think of a solution later. Because you were poisoned by me. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile. Her pleasant voice was like the sound of nature, but it sounded like a demon's voice in Zhong Yilun's mind. You poison me? Zhong Yilun widened his eyes. This was what he was most worried about, but what he was afraid of came true. That's right, Bailey Hongzhuang said calmly. As long as you give us the points, I'll give you the antidote. Otherwise, you can just wait for death. Zhong Yilun's face was somewhat pale as he said, Even if you give me the antidote, young Master Bai will definitely take my life when he knows what I've done. Then, what's the difference if I don't want the antidote? Captain Zhong, you are a captain after all. It shouldn't be difficult for you to find a scapegoat. When the time comes, even if you can't avoid being punished by Luchuan, it won't be a problem for you to keep your life. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Zhong Yilun lazily, ignoring his little tricks. Since the other party could use the man-eating beast to deal with them and gain Luchuan's favor, it was obvious that this person was full of evil tricks. He definitely had a way to escape. With Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Zhong Yilun knew that it was useless for him to play dumb in front of the three of them. At this moment, what he regretted the most was not killing these guys directly. If he had done it during the day, there wouldn't be so much trouble now. All right, I promise you. Zhong Yilun nodded. At least you know your place. A smile appeared on Gong Jun's face. They had been delayed for 3 whole days, and they had finally gained something. Let's go. Di Beichun turned around and looked at the exit behind them. Since the matter had been resolved, there was no point in staying here any longer. All right, before I leave, I have to remind you of something. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and said, Normal pharmacists have no way to neutralize my poison. If you don't believe me, you could try. Of course, you can also ask Wan Yi and the others about how they were poisoned. All the doctors in the city went, but they still couldn't cure the poison. If you don't want to die, don't play any tricks. With that, the 3 of them gradually disappeared from Zhong Yilun's sight. As the 3 of them disappeared, Zhong Yilun sat down limply as though he had lost all his strength. He had been hunting geese all day and was finally pecked by the geese. He never expected that he would be schemed against by the three of them. He tried to wake up the unconscious person beside him, but he realized that no matter how he shouted, the other party didn't react like a dead pig. His expression turned abnormally ugly. Chapter 65-72. Zhong Yilun calmed down and thought about it carefully. Guan Yi and the others hated Bailey Hongzhuang so much that they were determined to kill them. Coincidentally, he had heard someone say that Gong Jun was the shopkeeper of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. After connecting all the dots, everything became clear. It turned out that Guan Yi wanted to take revenge for poisoning them. That was why he found Master Bai and tried every means to kill them. He didn't expect that he didn't mention this to him at all. If he knew it earlier, he would have been able to take precautions. Shopkeeper Guan had invited so many pharmacists, but none of them could cure the poison. Presumably, other than Bailey Hongzhuang, no one else could cure him. Thinking of this, Zhong Yiluan's heart turned cold. In this way, he really had no other choice after exiting the tunnel. Gong Jun couldn't help but ask, "Boss, madam, wouldn't it be a pity if we just leave like this and don't collect those demon spiritual herbs? Don't worry, it will fall into our hands sooner or later." Di Beichan smiled faintly. Gong Jun was slightly stunned. Why is that? Do you think that Bai Luchuan looks like a magnanimous person? Of course not. Gong Jun shook his head, his eyes full of disdain. This person is narrow-minded and vicious. He can't be considered magnanimous at all. So, Zhong Yiluan's harvest will eventually be handed over to Bai Luchuan. Instead of alerting him now, why don't we wait until the time comes to take it from Zhong Yiluan's hands and save ourselves the trouble? Gong Jun's eyes lit up, and he immediately understood. Boss is wise. This way, we will save a lot of effort. After exiting the tunnel, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two slowly walked forward. There weren't many cultivators in this area. Although Guan Yi and Di Beichan had already left through this path, there were still many demons gathered here. The three of them were not worried that the people behind them would catch up to them. They immediately began hunting monsters here. The more she fought with the monsters, the more Bailey Hongzhuang felt that the aura of these monsters was very similar to the monsters in the desert world and the ocean world. However, so far, they had only encountered plants. Other than the two man-eating beasts, they had not seen any other animal-like monsters. As for the two man-eating beasts, because their strength was too strong, she was unable to kill them to understand the situation. The three of them continued forward, killing all the demons they saw along the way. The points on their identity cards gradually began to increase. The next day, when everyone in the team woke up, they found that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two had disappeared without a trace. "Captain, what should we do?" Zhong Yiluan looked at the anxious people in front of him and couldn't help but ridicule them in his heart. If these guys hadn't slept like pigs last night, he wouldn't have fallen into such a situation. However, he still had to continue acting. A trace of panic quickly appeared on his face as he said, "What's going on? If young Master Bai finds out, I'm afraid we'll be in trouble." Everyone's expression changed. When they thought of young Master Bai's angry appearance, they couldn't help but feel guilty. "Captain, why don't we just say that we haven't seen the three of them? Anyway, as long as we don't say anything, young Master Bai won't know." Chapter 65-73. "Captain, I think what you said makes sense. This is completely feasible. What happened before has already made Master Bai extremely unhappy. If he finds out that we let them escape, we will definitely be severely punished. Captain, just promise us." Everyone looked nervous and looked at Zhong Yiluan pleadingly. Seeing this, a trace of hesitation appeared on Zhong Yiluan's face. After a while, he nodded. "All right, since everyone has made this decision, then we can't let it slip. Otherwise, things will be even more troublesome. Captain, don't worry, we will definitely keep our mouths shut." After leaving the team, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two also had a lot of freedom. Without those people's chatter, I just feel that my whole body is clean. Gong Jun sighed and opened his hands, looking comfortable. Xiao He smiled and said, "I'm already looking forward to the end of the competition. Bai Luchuan still wants to defeat Bai Qingli. I think there's no hope this time. I don't know where Guan Yi and Yun Xiaomin are. These two guys should be dealt with as soon as possible." Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. She had originally planned to call a truce, but these two guys were relentlessly looking for trouble. If they were not dealt with as soon as possible, there would inevitably be complications in the future. After this demon slaughter competition, it would be a lot more troublesome to make a move on them again. They should have followed this path. Although the Demon Slaughter Mountain range is not small, it shouldn't be difficult to meet them again in a month's time. Gong Jun said. The three of them hunted monsters as they hurried along. Along the way, they had encountered cultivators in 2s and 3s. However, no one had any intention of coming into contact with them. They just pretended not to see each other and continued to fight. Master, why haven't we seen Yin Che and the others for so long? Xiao Hei's face was dejected. She thought that after leaving the team, she would be able to meet them soon. She didn't expect that after wandering around for another 2 days, she still hadn't met a single acquaintance. In the past, they used to be together all day long. Now that they had been separated for so long, she really missed them. We've been delayed for a long time. Yin Che and the others should have already rushed ahead of us. It's not strange that we haven't run into them yet. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm. She wasn't worried that Yin Che and the others would be in danger. After all, they were very clever and would definitely be able to turn misfortune into blessing. Not to mention the time we wasted on our journey. Just the day we spent in the tunnel is already a lot slower. Hearing Xiao Hei's words, Gong Jun couldn't help but ask, Madam, could it be that you know other people in this city? That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. We'll probably run into each other later. I'll introduce them to you then. That's great. Just as the 3 humans and 2 beasts were moving forward, they suddenly heard a violent tremor coming from the front. Such a strong elemental energy undulation. His battle aura is very shocking. Gong Jun's face was full of amazement. His gaze had already swept to the front. However, the distance was too far, and he couldn't see anything clearly. Di Beichen carefully sensed for a moment and said, There are many cultivators gathered in front. Why don't we go and take a look? Okay. Seeing this, the 3 of them increased their speed and quickly rushed forward. Chapter 6574. The 3 of them quickly approached the source of the sound. As they got closer, they were able to clearly see the situation in front of them. In their line of sight, the swamp of monsters that covered the mountains and plains looked extremely shocking. There were also many jackals, wolves, tigers, and leopards around. At a glance, this place was simply a gathering place for demons. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze swept over these monsters. She had to admit that they were indeed species that she had never seen before. Almost all of them were black, which was slightly different from the monsters that she usually saw. They looked more ferocious and bloodthirsty. The smooth lines on their bodies and the explosive power showed that they must have fought frequently. However, these monsters did not transform into human forms. Screams, sounds of metal clashing, and roars. These 3 kinds of sounds continued to resound. A murderous and bloody atmosphere gradually spread. The deep black and the dazzling red blended together and turned into a shocking picture. Boss, what is this place? How can there be so many monsters here? Originally, when they were hunting monsters, they thought that the Demon Slaughter Mountain range was a gathering place of monsters. However, compared to the scene in front of them, it paled in comparison. What was a gathering of monsters? This was a real gathering of monsters. Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a glimmer of brilliance as he said, I remember that the booklet also described such a place. This is the place where monsters like to gather the most. Hunting monsters here will undoubtedly increase your points the fastest. However, because there are too many monsters here, if there are not enough human cultivators, we can't act rashly. Once they gang up on him, only death awaits him. Hearing this, Gong Jun shrugged. When he thought of being surrounded by these monsters, he felt a chill in his heart. It was truly terrifying. Let's go over. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up. There are many cultivators here now. Looking around, although the number of cultivators was not as many as the monsters, they would not be surrounded. If they went to other places to hunt monsters, their speed would naturally not be as fast as here. This was undoubtedly the most time-saving place. Di Beichen's lips curled into a smile. Both of them immediately flew up. When Gong Jun saw the two of them rushing over, a trace of helplessness appeared on his face. If you marry a chicken, follow the chicken. If you marry a dog, follow the dog. If you recognize a boss, you have to follow him. A sharp sword appeared in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang, and her figure had already rushed into the midst of the demons. Di Beichun did not slow down at all. He completely unleashed the strength of the Radiant Sun Realm, killing the demons mercilessly. As the two of them appeared, the surrounding crowd could not help but cast their gazes over. Now that there were more cultivators, everyone felt a little more at ease. Brother E, why are the three of them here? Yun Xiaoman was in the middle of wholeheartedly hunting monsters when she suddenly saw an elegant white color. She subconsciously looked over. However, when she saw who the other party was, her face turned ugly. Although everyone felt that the three of them were not eaten by the man-eating monsters, she always had a trace of expectation in her heart. Because in that kind of environment, it was impossible for the three of them to pass safely. However, the scene in front of her completely shattered her fantasy. These guys were really safe and sound. Chapter 65-75. When Guan Yi heard Yun Xiaoman's voice, he couldn't help but turn around. His gaze followed the direction of the latter's gaze. With this look, he also noticed the three familiar figures. His expression suddenly became very ugly. However, Guan Yi calmly accepted this result. I already said that the three of them aren't that simple. If you want to kill them, you'll have to spend a lot of effort. Guan Yi's expression was complicated. He didn't know why, but he felt that the three of them were very evil. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun didn't need to be said. But even that Gong Jun, he felt that it was very strange. According to his uncle, these past few years, his uncle had been thinking of ways to suppress him. He even sent people to directly take his life. However, this guy was very lucky. Every time, he was able to escape unscathed. I really hope that Brother Bai can come back soon. If they are here, I think they won't be able to escape. Yun Xiaoman sighed. Her heart was also somewhat regretful. Xiaoman, these two guys aren't simple. We only have two people now. It's best to stay away from them. Otherwise, once they find us, I'm afraid we will be in trouble. Guan Yi's expression became dignified. He still remembered that time outside the city lord's mansion. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at him with a gaze. He was almost certain that Bailey Hongzhuang had already remembered this enmity. Brother E, isn't this letting them be too complacent? It's better than losing our lives. After Guan Yi made up his mind, his figure quickly rushed to the side. He didn't plan to leave this place. He only planned to stay a little further away. After all, other than this place, it was too difficult to exchange for enough points in other places. Yun Xiaoman unwillingly followed along, her mind constantly thinking about how to take revenge. Just when she was distracted, a demon took the opportunity to attack her. Bang! Yun Xiaoman's figure was heavily knocked to the ground. A sharp claw mark was left on her neck. Ah! Yun Xiaoman screamed. The intense pain made her neck feel numb. She reached out and touched her cheek, only to find that her cheek was also injured by the claw. Looking at the bright red blood on her hand, Yun Xiaoman's face turned pale, her eyes gradually became sharp, and crazily shouted, "My face! My face!" Guan Yi saw Yun Xiaoman shouting like crazy, and the first thing he did was to cover her mouth and drag her to the side. "You're crazy. Are you trying to lure them here?" Guan Yi said angrily. However, Yun Xiaoman couldn't care less about these things. Brother E, my face? What about my face? It's just a superficial wound. There shouldn't be any problems. Guan Yi handed the healing medicine to Yun Xiaoman. You rest here first. Bailey Hongzhuang was hunting demons when she suddenly heard a scream from afar. She vaguely felt that the voice was somewhat familiar and could not help but look over. However, she did not see a familiar figure and could not help but frown. Did I hear wrongly? Master, what's wrong? Nothing. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. She put away the doubts in her heart and continued to hunt demons. Chapter 65-76. The smell of blood spread in the air. In addition to the monsters that were killed, there were also injured cultivators. Exclamations and screams alternated, and occasionally there would be a wail. These monsters attack together. Their combat strength can't be underestimated. I haven't got many points, and my injuries are already so serious. What should I do? Although I knew that I should bring more medicinal pills to participate in the monster slaying competition, I didn't expect the situation to be so tragic. I don't have much healing medicine left. What should I do? It's useless to regret now. Healing medicine is undoubtedly the most precious thing here. No one will be willing to sell it to us. The only thing we can do is to get points as soon as possible. If we can't, our lives are the most important. Sighs sounded one after another. Almost everyone was hoping for a fluke before the monster slaying competition began. They felt that with their strength, they could protect themselves safely. After all, with their situation, it was already very difficult for them to survive in Xi'an City. It was already very difficult to get the cultivation resources needed for daily cultivation, let alone exchange them for healing medicine. However, it was only after they entered that they realized that they were lacking in strength. Their injuries were far more serious than they had imagined. They had only stayed here for 2 days, but they were already injured in many places. If this continued, they could only watch other cultivators get points while they recuperated. Thinking of this, everyone could not help but sigh. No matter how regretful they were, it was useless at this moment. At this moment, a hawking voice suddenly sounded from behind. Selling medicine, healing medicine, detoxification pills. I have all the medicinal pills you need here. Following this voice, many people immediately turned their gazes and saw a fatty who had unknowingly set up a small stall on the ground not far away. This small stall was very simple. It was just a piece of linen spread on the ground. What attracted everyone's attention was the things placed on the linen. There were simple white porcelain bottles. Obviously, they should be the medicinal pills that everyone needed. The eyes of the crowd, who were originally thinking that they did not have enough medicinal pills, lit up when they saw this scene. Weren't these medicinal pills what they lacked the most right now? Bailey Hongzhuang had noticed that Gong Jun didn't come in to hunt monsters. Instead, he wandered around the area. In the end, he found a place to sit down. She felt a little strange. After interacting with him for the past few days, she already knew that this fatty was really too lazy to make a move. If it weren't for the fact that he had no other choice, he probably wouldn't be interested in hunting monsters at all. She had never thought that he would be so lazy. Since he had come here, he should have at least made a gesture and killed a few monsters. Instead, he sat down and rested. However, when she heard Gong Jun shout, her expression changed slightly, and a hint of surprise appeared in her eyes. He looked around carefully. The current situation, fortunately, it was quite suitable for doing business. Sell medicine. Don't miss it. There aren't many people selling medicine in this monster slaying competition. If we miss this opportunity, we won't have another one. The medicinal pills I have here are also limited. It's first come, first served. I'll stop when I'm out. Chapter 65-77. That's why I thought he looked familiar. Isn't he the shopkeeper of the Fairy Treasure Pavilion? Now that you mention it, it's true. Why is he here? Could it be that he's participating in the demon slaughter competition to sell elixirs? It can't be, right? His business has already reached this stage. Why do we care so much about him? As long as we can buy elixirs from him, our urgent needs will be solved. For a moment, many people were eager to make a move. In this situation, they really needed some elixirs. The crowd, who were already tempted, did not dare to stay any longer after hearing Gong Jun's limited number of elixirs. They immediately walked up to Gong Jun. At this time, Gong Jun had already written the price of each elixir with a label. When the crowd saw the price of each elixir, they could not help but frown. Shopkeeper Gong, the price of your elixirs is much more expensive than outside. Yes, the price is almost doubled. Isn't he deliberately cheating us? How can we sell it like this? This is too much. Sounds of discussion rang out one after another. Everyone looked at Gong Jun with eyes filled with dissatisfaction. However, Gong Jun did not care about their objections and discussions at all. The smile on his face did not change. He said, "Everyone, calm down and listen to me. Since I'm selling elixirs in the Demon Slaughter Mountain range, the price naturally can't be the same as in the shop. I've come so far from the Fairy Treasure Pavilion to the Demon Slaughter Mountain Range. I have to pay a little more, right? Even so, you can't raise the price so much. Brother, I've clearly marked the price. If you don't want to buy, I won't force you. How can you say that I'm black-hearted? Gong Jun smiled. No matter how unpleasant the crowd's words were, he was unmoved. Think about it. The price of elixirs is indeed expensive, but when you're seriously injured, it's even more difficult to get an elixir from other cultivators, right? With this pill, you'll be able to obtain even more points. If you are able to enter the top 10, then you'll be able to earn many times more. If you don't have enough blood spirit stones, you can pay half of the blood spirit stones and half of the points. In any case, it's only a matter of time before everyone wants to obtain points here. This way, you won't be at a disadvantage, right? Listening to Gong Jun's tireless explanation, the crowd, who were originally filled with righteous indignation, was unconsciously moved. This way, although the price is indeed more expensive, other than having to pay some points, the price is still the same. After we recover from our injuries, we'll get more points than what we'll give him. I think this is feasible. Let's not talk about anything else. I really need to buy a pill right now. At this moment, a cultivator took the lead and said, "Give me a healing pill." All right. Gong Jun happily handed over the healing pill to the other party. Young master is really smart. This choice is really worth it. After the first person took the lead, the others also began to buy it. After all, the number of elixirs was limited. If they missed the opportunity now, wouldn't it be terrible if they couldn't buy it when they needed it later? Chapter 65-78. Bailey Hongzhuang and company looked at the smiling Gong Jun, who was enjoying himself so much that he forgot about his duties. They were full of admiration. Master, this Gong Jun is really impressive when it comes to doing business. Everyone is clearly helping him earn points for free, but they still think he's very kind. Xiaohei was secretly speechless. She originally despised the fatty. He couldn't run fast and could eat more than them. However, from the looks of it, this fellow's ability to earn money was indeed top-notch. In fact, in such an environment, everyone knows very well that the price of the pills definitely can't be the same as outside. Therefore, everyone is already mentally prepared. Gong Jun first doubled the price, causing everyone to be dissatisfied. Then, he proposed using points to replace the ordinary fees. Everyone immediately felt that it was much more worth it and was more acceptable. Di Beichun curled his lips slightly. As expected of a cultivator who relied on business to ascend step by step. This fellow came with the intention of doing business from the beginning. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and sighed. However, the corners of her lips couldn't help but curl up. I suddenly feel that the speed at which we obtain points is probably inferior to his. Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, be it Di Beichun, Xiaohei, or Xiaobai, none of them agreed or disagreed. This was because they felt the same way. In just a short period of time, Gong Jun's points had rapidly risen. There were so many cultivators in front of them, and many of them had contributed a few points to Gong Jun. The number was imaginable. If Bai Lu Chuan had thought of this method earlier, he would have already obtained first place, right? Xiaobai couldn't help but say. The other party had worked hard for so many years and found so many people to help, but the effect was still inferior to Gong Jun's ease in selling the pills. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Xiaobai. You've hit the nail on the head. Fortunately, Bai Luchuan wasn't here. Otherwise, he would have been angered to death when he saw this scene. In fact, Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman, who were far away, were about to die from anger after seeing this scene. Brother Yi, they actually have such a method to obtain cultivation resources. That's just too despicable. Yun Xiaoman clenched her fists, her face full of anger. They had worked so hard to obtain these points, but now it seemed that Gong Jun's points alone had surpassed the sum of their points. If we had known this would happen, we would have brought more pills to sell. On the one hand, it can increase the sales volume of the Wanbao Pavilion. On the other hand, it can earn us a lot of points. In this way, not only would they not need to expend so much effort, but they would also be the biggest winners once they obtain the top 10 rewards. However, this opportunity now belonged to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Even though they had brought a lot of medicinal pills with them, it was still far from enough to sell. Guan Yi's face was pale. He had never thought of this method before. Now that he saw it, he realized how stupid they were. However, it was useless to think about this now. Brother E, what should we do now? Yin Xiaoman couldn't help but ask. I really hope that Brother Bai can come quickly. They really can't stay here any longer.